Chapter 1548. Dustless felt very awkward. At this moment, Lafreya was only wearing simple pajamas with only a layer of light pink gauze. Dustless's vision was already good to begin with, and this sleepiness was as thin as a cicada's wings. It was almost transparent as it fell into Dustless's eyes. Cough, cough, cough. Dustless's face slightly changed as he coughed a few times. After cursing the initiator a few thousand times, he hurriedly put on a fake smile and said, "Sorry, I went to the wrong door." "You said you went to the wrong door?" Lafreya pouted. She obviously didn't buy it. She curled her lips and said with disdain, "Did I hear wrong? You went to the wrong door and actually walked into someone else's bedroom? Are you sure you didn't sleepwalk but went to the wrong door?" Hearing this, Dustless was speechless. This was an undeniable fact. Even if he went to the wrong door, the first place he entered was someone else's living room, not Lafreya's bedroom. Forget it, there's nothing to explain. Shaking his head, Dustless was too lazy to talk nonsense. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly felt a pair of soft and delicate arms hugging him. He was instantly startled. Lowering his head, he saw Lafreya's lustful eyes. "What's the matter?" Being hugged by Lafreya, Dustless knitted his brows. He was slightly resistant. A beauty throwing herself into his arms, especially when the other party was a princess. She was beautiful and had a high status. Lafreya was enough to arouse the desire of anyone. However, thinking that she was just using him as a tool, Dustless's heart was filled with resistance. "Let go of me." Dustless stared at Lafreya's watery eyes. His tone as calm as water. "Am I that unattractive?" Lafreya sighed in disappointment. Her bleak tone aroused pity. She indeed had the mentality of using Dustless as a tool. However, this was pardonable. Who told her country to have a conflict with the War King's territory? It was normal for her to find someone with long legs to hug. "I can understand your thoughts, but you ignored my mentality," Dustless said lazily. At the same time, he took 2 deep breaths of Lafreya's body fragrance. Dustless nodded with a smile and praised, "It smells good." Dustless left after saying that. He turned around and sat on the sofa in the living room. He didn't dare to casually enter the house now. He was afraid that he might barge into someone's bathroom again. Releasing the shackles on Immortal's Wood Aye's neck requires a huge amount of magic power. I'm afraid that Immortal's Wood Yuma thought that my magic power was strong enough because she saw how strong I was. But I'm sorry. Dustless shook his head. In fact, he didn't understand the so-called mana at all. He was just a dabbler. Not to mention a huge amount of mana, he didn't even have a trace of it. Itagami Island's mana is greater than the dragon vein. It seems like only that dabbler true ancestor can do it. In the original story, Immortals Wood Yuma looked for Akatsuki Koju to do this. Dustless pondered. That surging wave of mana was not ordinary. It was almost tangible. True ancestor was called invincible for a reason. First of all, his majestic mana was far superior. "I'll use this opportunity to get rid of Koju," said Lin Yun with a murderous glint in his eyes. His pitch-black pupils emitted a soul-stirring baleful aura. In fact, Dustless wanted nothing more than for Akatsuki Koju to release the prisoners. That way, he would be an accomplice. Neither Natsuki nor the Lion King organization would meddle in his affairs. Ding ding ding. Just when Wu Chen was deep in thought, his mobile phone suddenly rang. Looking at the unfamiliar phone number, an unexpected figure suddenly appeared in Wu Chen's mind. It's her? The person who called Dustless was Akatsuki Koju's other childhood sweetheart, Blue Feather. But because of Dustless's mischief, their relationship was completely broken and they even parted ways. That's strange. Wu Chen touched his chin curiously. After hesitating for a while, he finally chose to answer the phone. "Miss Blue Feather, what's the matter?" "I'm going to sleep now." Dustless spoke first. Hey. What's with your lazy tone? If I remember correctly, you are a member of the Special Regions Police Force. Don't use such a casual tone. It's as if you are an outsider." Blue Feather's extremely strict tone came from the other side. It was as if she ate several tons of explosives. Her angry tone made Dustless quite depressed. He didn't seem to have offended her in any way. "You have to take responsibility for this," Blue Feather said sternly. It's worth mentioning that she is also one of the victims of the spatial distortion. She accidentally entered someone's room when she was sleeping. What made her want to cry was that the room she accidentally entered was Dustless's room. Even though she has never been to Dustless's room, she is quite familiar with his clothes and his unique scent. That's why she got angry for no reason. Are you sure? Maybe you found that the person who caused this incident is one of your familiar friends. Lowering his voice, Wu Chen explained with a hidden meaning. He is 100% sure that it is Akatsuki Koju. He is the only one on Itagami Island who has the ability to distort space. I don't care who it is, I will arrest them and punish them according to the law. Blue Feather's tone remained unchanged. I hope you don't regret this. Dustless hung up the phone and stared calmly at the purple horizon. That's the direction of Itagami Island's foundation gate. That's where the boundless magical energy came from. The entire Itagami Island is in a state of chaos. Many places have spatial distortion. The entire island is in a precarious situation. Chapter 1549. The space around Itagami Island is in chaos. The number of criminals increased as well. Screams of agony could be heard everywhere. The normally safe Itagami Island has become a crime capital. Yuma, isn't this a bit too much? Koju and immortal capital Yuma stood at the highest point of the cornerstone gate. They looked down at the chaotic world with pity in their eyes. Focusing his gaze, he saw a magic book floating in the void. Koju's majestic mana was driving it. This simple magic book was emitting bursts of demonic light, looking extremely mysterious and demonic. The evil light overflowing from the book made people shiver uncontrollably. It was full of indescribable mana, and just a glance at it would make one's mind become immersed in it. Scram, scum. Many innocent citizens were dragged into this mess. The city fell into unprecedented chaos. Many criminals took advantage of the situation and broke the law. No one restrained them. Is this a bad thing for us to do? Koju was moved. He used to be a normal human too. It's fine. Don't you want to take revenge on Dustless? Immortal capital Yuma urged softly. Her voice was filled with unconcealable sorrow and pain. Koju was distracted and didn't notice it. However, immortal capital Yuma had no choice. Her existence was to revive immortal capital Yuma. She could only apologize to Koju. If possible, immortal capital Yuma didn't want to lie to Koju. However, Dustless was too strong. She couldn't control Dustless. Thus, she had to take a step back and look for Koju. That guy. Koju recalled Dustless's ugly face and heard Dustless's mockery. He gritted his teeth and said, "He dared to humiliate me like that. I want to take him down with me." At the mention of Dustless, Koju's mana increased a bit. Koju, don't worry. Once Mother is released from prison, you two can defeat that guy. Victory will be in our hands. Immortal capital Yuma took the opportunity to persuade. Defeat me? A ghost-like commotion suddenly resounded. It was extremely frightening. Who are you? Hurry up and come out. I'm the fourth true ancestor. Koju shouted loudly after looking around. Previously, he had resisted the idea of being the fourth true ancestor, but now he had accepted it. As for the reason, what a joke. He wasn't even a match for Dustless when he was a true ancestor. If he abandoned his status as a true ancestor, wouldn't that be courting death? TSK. You two are really heartless. We haven't even been apart for a day and you two are already looking down on me. A ripple appeared in the void, and then a crack was torn open in the sky. It's you? Seeing the smiling figure walking out of the crack, Koju immediately put on a constipated expression, which was even uglier than if he had swallowed 100 tons of flies. This person was his archenemy and nemesis. Dustless. That perpetual smile remained natural from beginning to end. That bastard is laughing at me again. Koju's face darkened. In his view, whenever Dustless smiled at him, he would be in trouble. The first time he met Dustless, this guy had a sly smile on his face, but he was caught for no reason. The second time, Jijwa Shelley thought he was a pervert, and the third time was even more tragic. He didn't do anything, but Blue Feather called him a rapist, and the fourth time. In short, every time Dustless smiled at him, Koju didn't think it was a good thing. You? Dustless landed on the ground and lazily put his hands in his pockets. He said in surprise, "Immortal Capital Yuma, your methods aren't bad. I thought you would seize the right to use Koju. After all, this simple-minded idiot is brain-damaged and often has his body taken by others. I expected you to be able to take his body, but I didn't expect you to turn him over to your mother's side." In the original work, Koju was the #1 sucker. He was either controlled or had his body taken. His identity as a true ancestor was ruined by him. "Give up on your unrealistic plan and I can let you go." Dustless looked straight at the two. Although his tone sounded kind, he actually wanted Koju to release Immortal Capital Yuma. This way, he could avenge his personal grudge and kill this eyesore in one fell swoop. This sudden unforeseen event was a golden opportunity bestowed by heaven to Dustless. "Give up the plan? I won't." Hearing the command in Dustless's tone, Koju refused without hesitation. If Dustless liked something, he would refuse. If Dustless didn't like something, he would accept it. "Is that so? It seems it will be difficult to negotiate. Let's do it." Dustless stared at Koju with a sneer. After hearing the long-awaited answer, he beckoned with his finger. "If you want to die so much, I'll fulfill your wish." Ka. Koju naturally wouldn't show mercy. His enmity with Dustless was as deep as the ocean. His mother was forced into a striptease. Koju's dignity and heart had suffered a blow. This time, he had to wash away this shame. Otherwise, he would have to live in the shadow of pain for the rest of his life. Boom boom boom. The heavens seemed to have heard Koju's anger. In the boundless night, dazzling lightning immediately jumped out. At the same time, the sky was filled with thunder and immediately attracted the attention of all the Devil Masters. An unexpected figure suddenly appeared. "What a surprise! This is going to be a good show." Dustless secretly laughed. This person was Xian Gaiong, one of the 3 saints of the Lion King organization. She was glaring at Koju with an ashen expression. Chapter 1550. Dustless looked at this scene with interest. Xiao Gaiong was probably disappointed with Koju. She originally thought highly of Koju's character, but she didn't expect him to do such a good thing. Yo. Long time no see, Miss Xiao Gaiong." Dustless greeted her with a smile. His tone was filled with schadenfreude. Xiao Gaiong glanced over and didn't reply after seeing that it was Dustless. She could hear Dustless's hidden meaning, but she didn't get angry. First of all, Dustless had the right to mock her, and second, this was indeed the failure of their Lion King organization. "Surrender, Koju." Xiao Gaiong took a deep breath and calmed herself down. There was no need to worry about who was the prisoner now. The key was to not let the prison barrier be broken. "Give up." Koju shook his head stubbornly and said softly, "I have no enmity with you, so please don't meddle in my business. My only target is Dustless, and I won't hurt anyone else." Koju looked at the sloppy Dustless, and his calm eyes immediately became cold and murderous. This guy was becoming more and more of an eyesore. "Just you? Or is it because of this swaggering beast?" Dustless pointed at the faintly formed lion in the sky and sneered. "True ancestors familiar? In the end, it's just a beast. What do you think a mere beast can do? You think it can help you turn the tables?" Dustless didn't hide his sarcasm. He raised his head and gathered a large amount of light in his hands. "Yasakani no Magatama." Boundless light bullets flew out of Dustless's hands like a rainstorm, carrying Dustless's unhappiness. The destructive light bullets went straight into the depths of the sky. Boom 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 boom. The golden lion's body was wide, and it was impossible to dodge. After all, there were too many of them, and his body was too big. Even if he managed to dodge some of the fatal attacks, he was still inevitably hit. It's truly inconceivable. This kind of large-scale attack is definitely more terrifying than the true ancestor's curly beast. He's attacking everything within a few kilometers. Xian Gaiong exclaimed in shock. Looking around, the originally dark and cold sky had been dyed into a large patch of golden light due to the excessive number of light bullets. Oh! A miserable howl came out of the golden lion's mouth. If one looked closely, they would see that the golden lion's body had been pierced through by terrifying attacks, leaving behind shocking wounds. The originally awe-inspiring golden lion instantly turned into a drenched rat. It was a tragic sight. Bang bang bang. In the end, the lion's gold could not withstand the destruction and crushing of the light. It turned into countless golden lights and dissipated. The boundless sky was filled with countless flashes of light. Another instant kill? Koju coughed up blood and almost choked to death. He couldn't help but wonder if this was the true ancestor's familiar. A piece of trash that was insta-killed. It's your turn now, Koju. Dustless's killing intent rose. He had been waiting for a long time, and now he finally found the right opportunity to kill Koju. Humph, don't get carried away. Do you really think I'm still the same half-baked person as before? Times have changed. Koju retorted sharply, but his confidence didn't falter. Koju's right hand turned black again, this time with crimson patterns. This guy. Dustless stared blankly at Koju. He wasn't unfamiliar with Koju's actions. This kid was going to summon his curly beast again. He's awakened other familiars? Where did this psychic come from? Dustless was puzzled. He wasn't in a hurry to attack. He could kill this kid at any time, and there was no harm in waiting to see what kind of tricks he had up his sleeve. Even if Koju summoned all his familiars, Dustless was confident in suppressing him. Could it be? His gaze shifted to Yuma. If she was a psychic, then she wasn't bad. It was understandable that she could summon other familiars. Our library might have disappeared, but that doesn't mean our influence has collapsed. Especially after Koju became the fourth primogenitor, I prepared a lot of psychics. Yuma slightly bowed to Dustless as a sign of respect. Dustless's strength wasn't inferior to a primogenitor's familiars, so he deserved her respect. Is that so? I thought it was your blood. Young lady, you're quite mature and know how to prepare for a rainy day. Yuma, the one who created you, must be quite good as well. Dustless nodded and gave her a look of appreciation. He stared at the petite but mature girl in surprise. She was much better than that idiot Koju. Isn't he being a little too calm? Does he have the confidence to take on multiple familiars at once? Yuma frowned while thinking. At the same time, she was wary of Xian Gaiyong. This guy was also a monster that the primogenitor was wary of. You're not going to stop Koju from summoning his familiars? Dustless asked curiously. Xian Gaiyong didn't seem to care and just watched. What's there to be afraid of? Xian Gaiyong shook her head nonchalantly and said with a smile, if the sky falls, you tall people will be the first to be smashed. Does this guy want to sit back and watch me and Koju fight to the death? Dustless had a whole new level of respect for this Xian Gaiyong, one of the three saints of the Lion King organization. These words meant that the organization wouldn't help either of them if they were to fight to the death with Koju. It was simple. The winner was king. Chapter 1551. Wu Chen stared at idler ancient chant for a while and finally looked away. This guy knew that the battle between the two of them could lead to the destruction of Itagami Island, but he still chose to ignore it. It was obvious that he was prepared to sacrifice one of them. Everyone knew that two tigers couldn't share one mountain. That grimoire. Dustless stared at the mysterious magus floating in the air. He frowned and slowly walked over. This grimoire and the primogenitor's immense mana are the only things that can make the prison barrier appear, right? Dustless walked and said leisurely, in other words, as long as this magic book is destroyed, the prison enchantment may disappear, and your plan to save immortal Mu Yi will be ruined. Does he want to destroy the grimoire? Immortal City Mu Yuma's delicate little face was tense. She was very eager to free Immortal City Mu Yi. Once her mother was free, it would mean that her mission would come to an end and she would regain her freedom. Do you think you can fly and live according to your own wishes after completing your mission? Lightly glancing at Xiandu Mu Yuma, who was full of longing, Dustless mercilessly said, this is impossible. Based on your mother's personality, she might kill you in the end. The meaning of your existence is equivalent to a chess piece. To put it bluntly, you are just a tool for her to revive. After Immortal City Mu Yi revives, it also means that as a tool, you have no place to be used. Immortal City Mu Yi doesn't need a substitute like you. Death is the best ending for you. So, continuing to imprison Immortal Mu Yi is also saving you. You should thank me. Now that you're my enemy, it's really sad. Dustless leisurely walked towards the glowing magic book, and a flash of lightning appeared on his fingertips. Sensing Dustless's intention, Yuma hurriedly urged Koju to stop Dustless. "Koju, stop him. I don't need you to tell me that. This guy and I can't live under the same sky." Koju's eyes were like torches as he stood in front of Dustless. His face was full of confidence, as if the defeat just now was nothing more than a pipe dream. Unkillable cockroaches always come one after another, but there will be a time when his life force will be exhausted. Dustless completely ignored the awe-inspiring and domineering Akatsuki Koju. He raised his right hand and pointed at the grimoire in the sky, erupting with a sharpness that could penetrate a mountain. Lasers! Under the night sky, a straight ray of light pierced through the sky and rose from the ground, heading straight for the grimoire. "Don't even think about it." Koju wasn't willing to be outdone. A large amount of mana burst out of his body, shaking the 100-meter-tall building as a behemoth jumped out of the void. "Is that the ninth familiar, double-horned crimson?" The monster that came into view had the appearance of a horse, and it exuded a noble and domineering aura. It also had a pair of horns and a beautiful crimson mane. "Oh, oh, oh!" A wave of hysterical energy came out of the monster's mouth. Its cheers echoed throughout the island as if it was venting its joy of being reborn. Its bright colors and red mane were extremely dazzling. Once it appeared, people couldn't take their eyes off it. "It's just a small trick." Koju snorted as he glanced at the dim golden light. In his eyes, it was close to being extinguished. His confidence skyrocketed and he ordered the ninth familiar to attack. "Oh, oh, oh!" The two-horned Shenfei once again opened his mouth and shouted a few times. Soon after, his pair of long horns that were emitting cold light lightly pointed at the void. The void suddenly rippled with a weak energy, and then it expanded without limit. Boundless ripples then spread out. Boom, boom, boom. The moment the invisible wave of energy came into contact with the golden light, it exploded. Dustless's plan to destroy the grimoire was completely foiled. That energy wave without a corpse seemed to be a high-frequency vibration, shock wave. Due to frequency resonance, it destroys objects. It's like the shock wave after an explosion. Did Koju use this kind of shock wave to destroy lasers? This kid can awaken such an amazing ability? The psychic medium Yuma found for him is pretty good. After nodding slightly, Dustless was about to speak when Koju spoke first. "As long as you kowtow and apologize to my mother, I'll let bygones be bygones." Koju's face was full of magnanimity. He didn't look like he was lying. "I awakened two curly beasts this time. Crimson is only one of them. There's still one left, and with Lion's Gold, that makes 3. Do you still think you have a chance of winning?" "No." Dustless shook his finger. "Although you have 3 familiars, I defeated Lion's Gold earlier. You only have 1 familiar left." "1?" Koju was stunned. He sneered. "Even if you defeated one of your familiars, you still have 2. Why do you have 1 left? You haven't even graduated from primary school." Dustless didn't say anything. Instead he smirked. He pointed at Crimson and explained. "As a primogenitor, you're quite slow. You still don't seem to understand what I mean. That's because this familiar is about to be eliminated. You only have 1 curly beast left. Dowbreaker's 90 black coffin." Countless shadowless black blades attacked from all directions. These evil blades didn't have a physical form. They were like sharp gases that couldn't be blocked at all. "Awoo!" Sensing the danger, Crimson Doublehorn howled twice, and the sharp horn on its head tapped the void again. An invisible ripple spread out again. Boom, boom, boom. Although the impact destroyed a lot of the black shadowless blades, there were still a lot of black lights that broke through the impact's defense and came into close contact with deep crimson of the 9th scroll. Pucci! He was instantly met with tragedy. He was brutally sliced into pieces. Chapter 1552. There was a popular saying in every world. Changes in war happen in the blink of an eye. 1 second, the situation might be clear and one-sided, but the next second, the situation could be dire. Akatsuki Koju was in such a tragic situation. He was surrounded on all sides by a cliff, and the slightest mistake could cause him to fall to his death. "Oh woo!" The cries of regret for living in this world were still echoing. The previous roar was the pride of the king of beasts, but now, it was nothing more than the moaning of a stray dog. Poochie! 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 More and more wounds appeared on the huge body of the double-horned crimson. It was unbearable to look at. The sharp edge of the black coffin had pierced through it. Its aura and magic power became dimmer and dimmer. It was a miserable ending. Bam bam bam. In the end, it was unable to withstand the continuous destruction of the black coffin, and the crimson horns deflated. After letting out an unwilling howl, it completely disappeared, turning into light that filled the sky and disappeared without a trace. Am I right? You only have one vassal beast left. He looked at Akatsuki Koju in amusement. Losing 2 vassal beasts in a row was a huge blow to Akatsuki Koju. Don't give up, Koju. Immortal Mu Yuma smiled and tried her best to maintain a look of victory. In fact, she was also thinking of retreating in her heart. She was very powerless and depressed. What Wu Chen said earlier had also dealt a blow to her. Immortal Mu Yi was indeed a ruthless and heartless person. The possibility of abandoning Immortal Mu Yuma was very high. Yes, I still have one vassal beast left. Koju's eyes lit up as the despair in his heart was reignited. He calmly stared at Dustless and raised his right arm once more. His entire arm had turned black with dense black runes appearing on it. It seemed that he was planning to summon another familiar. What's the point? Or does he have other plans? Sighing silently, Dustless secretly scolded the one-track-minded idiot. He secretly laughed in his heart and said, "Could it be that this guy wants to exhaust my physical strength by taking turns to fight? That's not a bad idea, but I'm a real 10-tailed beast. I rarely feel tired, especially in battle. Idiot, why don't you just summon 3 vassal beasts to attack me together?" Just as Dustless guessed, Akatsuki Koju was planning to wear down Dustless. His idea was simple. A primogenitor's mana was stronger than a dragon vein. As a human, Dustless was strong, but he definitely didn't have as much mana as Akatsuki Koju. It was normal for him to have such an idea. After all, no human in this world could compare to a primogenitor, so how could Dustless surpass a primogenitor? Akatsuki Koju's eyes. In a word, the natives of a human's eye. Even Natsuki Nangong thought the same. This was a common problem in the entire world. Bam 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 bam. In the dark night, there was a sudden burst of oppressive thunder. But of the eyes of the night sky of the eyes was of the night. Of the night of the eyes of the day. Is he going to summon more vassal beasts? Koyama frowned in anticipation. If Dustless didn't insta-kill Crimson Twin Horns, it would have been a long battle between primogenitors. Itagami Island might have been wiped off the map. He's not summoning vassal beasts. His mana is unbelievably strong, but look over there. She pointed to the sky on the left. Under the night sky, she couldn't see her fingers but she could see an unbelievably large castle. Xian Guyong's expression immediately changed, and she said with an embarrassed expression, "Is this a prison barrier?" "Finally, we can see the light of dawn." Yuma smiled. She thought of her mother, whom she had never met. She said uneasily, "Everything should be solved if we save her, right?" The prison barrier was oppressive. The sky was shrouded in black fog. It looked like a dead end. This place. Koju's expression changed slightly. He might be simple, but that didn't mean he was an idiot. Mu Yuma had said that her mother had said that Mu-I had been imprisoned here because of a small mistake. But looking at the terrifying castle and hearing the sharp screams, Koju knew that this wasn't a place to imprison people with good intentions. The people gathered here must be the most vicious and evil people. It won't be easy to get in. There's a barrier outside. Koyama's eyes reflected the light of wisdom. She was calm. The barrier was impenetrable. Yuma couldn't break through it. "Leave it to me." Koyama nodded. Since he chose to work with Yuma's mother to defeat Dustless, he had to go all the way. Golden Lion, Crimson Twin Horns. 2 colorful vassal beasts jumped out of the rift. They regained their domineering appearance and roared at the sky. However, they didn't get to enjoy it for long before tragedy struck. "Scram back to where you came from." Dustless ignored the vassal beast's arrogance. He formed a seal with his hands. Immortal art. Bright God Gate. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Deep in the sky, the bright God Gate responded to Dustless's call. They descended from the sky and bombarded the two vassal beasts. Roar, 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 roar. The two vassal beasts were insta-killed again. Just a few seconds after they appeared, Koju watched in astonishment as they were smashed into smithereens by the countless red logs. Chapter 1553. Immortal Art, Bright God Gate, was able to suppress the 10-tailed beast for a short period of time, let alone a mere familiar. The instant it appeared, the two powerful familiars were reduced to ashes in a flash. Gulp! Xiao Guyong's eyes widened. She had seen a lot, but she was still stunned by the boundless red log. She opened her mouth wide enough to stuff a stone in. What a freak that needs to be struck by lightning. Koju's face twitched fiercely. Normal people wouldn't even dare to breathe loudly in front of a true ancestor, but this guy killed two familiars in an instant, and two of them together without a scratch. At the very least, there were no side effects. But Koju's handsome face had a smug look on it. In another direction of the prison, there was a sudden flash of light, and the roar of a dragon shook the sky. Looking up, there was a huge dragon. Furthermore, it was an extremely rare two-headed dragon. It flapped its wings and soared high into the sky. Both of its wings emitted violent winds and tornadoes that resembled a level 10 storm swept towards the prison barrier. Ka-ka-ka! The two-headed dragon's momentum was astonishing, and the barrier that was as thin as a cicada's wing began to crack. So that's how it is. This kid used those two familiars to attract my attention. Dustless frowned. He recognized the two-headed dragon. It was his third familiar, the dragon snake watermark. Ka-ka-ka! The huge mouth bit down on the barrier. The barrier, which was already full of cracks, suddenly exploded. Although the dragon snake Mercury's ability was to devour and control dimensions, the sharp teeth of the two-headed dragon were also extremely sharp and could bite through the barrier. Looks like I've won. Koju's eyes shone. He was one step closer to saving Yuma's mother, Yuma I. According to Yuma, as long as he could break through the prison's barrier, saving her mother would be a piece of cake. You awakened your third familiar, the dragon snake watermark, right? If that's the case, then it's too disappointing. Dustless was unmoved. Instead, he said calmly, you still haven't figured it out. The me in front of you is the most difficult prison in the world to break. Boom, boom, boom. As soon as Dustless's voice fell, the spatial barrier completely exploded. An endless aura of decay and vicissitude suddenly descended, and a desolate smell swept through the world. Goodbye. Koju let out a few strange laughs. Then he and Yuma of Immortal City disappeared in front of Dustless. This is... Narrowing his eyes, Dustless frowned slightly. His gaze swept towards the prison barrier. He suddenly realized that the distance between him and Koju's group had increased by more than half. Similar to Natsuki Minamiya's spatial magic? His strength isn't much, but he runs very fast. Revealing a disdainful smile, Dustless's entire body flashed with a large amount of light. Just as she was about to turn into a burst of golden light and pursue, two insensible figures blocked her way. Get out of my way. Without even looking at the two, Dustless's tone was full of hostility and hostility. Aren't you a little too arrogant? The two figures who blocked her way were also members of the library. They were a pair of siblings under Yuma of Immortal City and had a rather resounding nickname. Hearing Dustless's arrogant tone, the two sisters were furious and glared at Dustless with hostility. It seems difficult to negotiate. That's right, brainwashed people like you only have one path from the beginning to the end. Dustless's footsteps swayed again. The silent spiritual pressure in his body suddenly erupted. Countless shadowless black blades descended and flew towards the two sisters without any trace of politeness. Tao Breakers 90. Black Coffin. The two sisters were working hard to activate the grimoire and didn't notice the approaching black light. Just as they were about to use the grimoire to attack Dustless, they were the first to suffer a tragedy. Pucci! 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 The two sisters were also heavily injured. The only difference was that Dustless didn't scare them to death this time. He only knocked them out. After that, he silently watched Koju and Yuma of Immortal City leave. Dustless put his hands in his pockets and stopped in his tracks. He didn't intend to pursue them. Are you going to let them go? Xian Gaiyong frowned. At the same time, she looked at Dustless, who was slowly advancing, and asked, "Aren't you afraid that Natsuki will be killed by that kid? Natsuki is the key to the prison. If she is killed, Yuma of Immortal City will achieve her goal and I of Immortal City will be able to break out of the prison." "Do you really think I know nothing about this?" Dustless glanced at Xian Gaiyong and said with disgust, "You treat Natsuki like a prison. Right now, she's just a magic illusion. I want to save her from this prison. So, if the prison is broken, so be it. Even if those vicious criminals destroy Itagami Island, it has nothing to do with me." "You!" Hearing this, Xian Guiyong's face turned ashen. He stared at Dustless coldly. He finally understood what this guy was trying to do. He was wasting time to deliberately let Xiao Guqing break through the prison's enchantment to free the prisoners. "I said before that Natsuki is the key. If you want to free the prisoners, you have to kill her." Xian Gaiyong was familiar with all of this. "No, she won't die." Stretching his body, Wu Chen said with a firm look, "Taking a step back if she's really dead, reviving her, is just a trivial matter for me." Chapter 1554. Dustless and Natsuki had a good relationship. Even though she was very domineering, Dustless did not dislike her. In fact, he liked her personality. Therefore, he wanted to help Natsuki whenever he could. "Do you know what will happen to Itagami Island if those vicious criminals are released?" Xian Gaiyong emphasized, trying to make Dustless understand the severity of the situation. Not just Itagami Island, the entire world will be in danger because of those vicious criminals. Even if the order of the world is changed, even if the world is destroyed tomorrow, none of this has anything to do with me. Dustless did not appreciate her kindness. He only looked at her coldly. "You're such a brainless fellow." Xian Gaiyong was enraged. This was the first time she saw someone so reckless. She scolded, "You lunatic, are you going to—" Whoosh! 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 Dustless did not give Xian Gaiyong a chance to finish her sentence. He appeared beside Xian Gaiyong in a flash and grabbed her neck while she was distracted. "Those criminals, even if they want to destroy the world, that's a matter for the future. But if they anger me, this world may enter the end of the world right now, especially this island under our feet. Its life and death is completely in my hands." Wu Chen stared coldly at Xian Guiyong. His indifferent eyes were filled with endless coldness. His eyes were filled with indifference and casualness towards life. It was as if he didn't care how many people died. Cough, cough, cough. Xian Gaiyong coughed violently. Her face and neck turned red. She struggled with all her might. She could not see how Dustless moved. "Damn pervert, let go of me!" Xian Gaiyong shouted angrily. She was speechless at this kind of monster. She could empathize with Koju. She could not resist at all. Cough, 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 cough. Xian Guiyong's coughing got worse and worse. Her breathing became erratic. Dustless was tormenting her. It was not that she was weak, but her enemy was too strong. "What's more, I only need to annihilate all the prisoners that were released," Dustless said coldly. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been standing here for half a day. He was waiting for the prisoners to escape and annihilate them all. At the same time, in the gloomy castle. After going through all kinds of calamities, Akatsuki Koking and Immortal Mu Yuma finally arrived at the center of the castle. There was nothing around them except for a seat in the middle of the hall. A young girl was sitting there. "That is..." Koju looked at this person in a daze. Her petite figure seemed familiar to him. He walked closer and saw that she was his English teacher, Natsuki Nangong. "What's going on?" Koju was petrified. His tone was sharp as if he couldn't accept such an accident. "That's right. The key to the prison is Natsuki Nangong herself. As long as we kill her, this prison will only exist in name and all the prisoners inside will be released." Immortal Mu Yuma's face was filled with longing. She had been waiting for this day for a long time. At that time, the shackles that bound her would disappear. "You want to kill her?" Hearing this, Koju took a step back. His complexion subtly changed. It was clear that he didn't want to do this. Although Koju had grudges with Dustless, he didn't want to involve others, especially since Natsuki had been good to him. He didn't want to do anything to her. This was too crazy. Koju had his own bottom line. If he knew that opening the prison's enchantment meant killing Natsuki Nangong, he absolutely wouldn't have done this. Now is not the time to be kind. Immortal Mu Yuma had a solemn expression. Success was so close, so how could she give up? Absolutely not. It was impossible and unrealistic for her to give up on her own plan. Koju, if you can't do it, then leave it to me. Immortal Mu Yuma didn't want to make things difficult for Koju. She stepped forward and looked down at Natsuki Nangong. Just as she was about to kill her, a sudden change occurred. Natsuki Nangong, who was originally sleeping, suddenly opened her eyes, revealing a pair of deep and bright eyes. Immortal Mu Ice daughter, if you give up on your unrealistic plan now, I can turn a blind eye to it. Your mother is just using you. Don't make a mistake. Natsuki Nangong scolded after waking up. Although she was sad that Koju had gone astray, she saw everything that happened just now. Koju hadn't gone too far yet. It's so lively here. At the same time, a discordant voice sounded. It's you, the snake charmer. Natsuki Nangong calmly glanced at the handsome blonde youth. A few days ago, Battle King's territory paid the compensation for the damage done to Itagami Island. Vatler was released from prison and became Battle King's territory's ambassador to Itagami Island. Vatler. Koju was on guard. At first, he didn't know why Vatler approached him, but after Immortal Mu Yuma's reminder, he was filled with disgust. This guy wants to devour me and become a surpasser? Dream on. Koju sneered inwardly. If this guy tried to get close to him, he would immediately summon a familiar. Koju was a lot more confident when facing Vatler. As long as his opponent wasn't a nightmare like Dustless, he was confident. You're not welcome here, Vatler. Natsuki Nangong didn't hold back and asked him to leave. She vaguely guessed his goal and became nervous. Chapter 1555. This guy was a battle maniac. In order to find a strong person to battle, he could do any crazy thing. However, the last time he went to find trouble with Dustless, he kicked an iron plate and was beaten up. After staying in the prison for a few days, he immediately returned to his original nature. Don't say that. I'm the ambassador of Battle Monarch's domain to Itagami Island. Vatler shrugged nonchalantly with a threatening tone. When he mentioned Battle Monarch's domain, he emphasized the word, Battle Monarch's domain. Everyone could hear the hidden meaning. This guy. Immortal Du's Mu Yuma frowned slightly and subconsciously looked outside. After a long time, Wu Chen still hadn't caught up. This was clearly abnormal. What's your goal? Yuma asked. Don't tell me you're here to challenge someone strong. If that's the case, then there's someone called Dustless outside. He's very strong. Him. Hearing this, Vatler's mouth twitched violently a few times. He recalled being beaten up by Dustless a while ago and immediately shook his head. Although he longed to fight with experts, it didn't mean that he had a special hobby of being beaten up. I'm here. Vatler looked at Akatsuki Koju affectionately and said, I came here to confess my love to Akatsuki Koju. Hearing this, Nangong Na Yu and Shendu Mu Yuma both spat out saliva. Are you crazy? The one who reacted the most was Yuma. She had goosebumps when her childhood sweetheart was suddenly pulled in by someone else. Vatler sure has a unique interest. No wonder he doesn't care about the beauties on his ship. He has a thing for Koju. Dustless smiled and muttered to himself. He suddenly felt that he was right to frame Koju for being gay. The person who had come to propose had already come knocking on their door. Moreover, it was a monster who was the closest to a true ancestor. Get the hell away from me. Koju almost vomited blood. He noticed that Yuma was looking at him in a different way. This bastard is just like Dustless. No, he's even more despicable than Dustless. No matter how crazy Dustless was, he wouldn't say something so disgusting. Koju's expression was gloomy as he stared at Vatler. Vatler looked harmless, but he was much more terrifying than Dustless. Of course. I have other goals too. Vatler stared at Natsuki like a hungry wolf. He said maliciously, once the space witch falls, those evil and annoying people will break out of the prison. You bastard, you really came here for this. Natsuki became nervous after hearing this. The current situation was very unfavorable for her. She was already food on the table. Both Vatler and Yuma had their eyes on her. As for Koju, Natsuki shook her head and decided to forget about it. It was already a good ending that Koju didn't turn against her. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A purple magic formation appeared in the air and countless chains shot out. Between Vatler and Yuma, who was the bigger threat? It was meaningless. Obviously, it was Vatler. After all, he was the closest to a true ancestor. That was why Natsuki attacked him first. Immortal Capital Mu Yuma murmured, and a steel shadow appeared behind him. Don't move! Seeing Shendu Mu Yuma about to sneak attack Nangong Natsuki, a black shadow rushed over and blocked her way. Her beautiful black hair was very eye-catching. When he appeared, Nangong Natsuki and Vatler, who were fighting, suddenly stopped. Dustless! They were shocked. Koju and Vatler had the worst expressions. After all, they had been crushed by Dustless before. It left them with a serious psychological barrier. We have a chance of winning now. Natsuki was overjoyed. Dustless's appearance was the biggest surprise for her. Even if they worked together, they might not be his match. But who would have thought that a certain person's next unexpected action caused everyone to be stunned, including Dustless? Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, Yuma from Immortal City suddenly threw herself into Wu Chen's arms. Then, the shadow of the Steel Knight behind her rushed towards Wu Chen. Do you want to die together with me? Wu Chen looked at Mu Yuma, who was hugging him tightly. His eyes became colder and colder, without any emotion. He was like an iceberg, isolated from the world. Tao Breaker 88. Flying Dragon strikes the thief. Even though he was hugged by Yuma, Dustless shot out a huge light. Just as it was about to tear the Steel Knight apart, something happened. A golden lion descended from the sky and blocked the fatal attack. Lion's gold? Dustless was surprised. He subconsciously looked at Koju, only to find that his eyes had changed and he was charging at Natsuki. Puchi! At the same time, Dustless felt a slight pain in his abdomen. He looked at Yuma in disbelief. She was smiling sinisterly. Are you Koju? When did you switch bodies? Dustless raised his voice, which was rare. He was shocked. There was a huge bloody hole in his abdomen. If it was a normal person, they would have died long ago. However, for the 10-tailed Dustless, this was a minor injury. He could heal it with a thought. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Then, under Dustless's incredulous gaze, the Steel Knight suddenly changed its trajectory and rushed towards Nangong Natsuki with Koju. Chapter 1556. The sudden change was beyond Dustless's expectations. He stared at Yuma. He didn't know when this guy switched bodies with Koju. At this moment, Immortal City Wood Yuma was Akatsuki Koku, and Akatsuki Koku was Immortal City Wood Yuma. Dodge, Natsuki! Realizing the danger, Wu Chen shouted. At the same time, his body erupted with violent chakra, and Senzuki Yamadu, who was tightly binding Wu Chen, was immediately bounced away. Shinra Tensei! A fierce repulsive force erupted. Koju, who switched bodies with Yuma, was clearly weaker. He couldn't withstand the force and was mercilessly sent flying. Ka! Yuma's body smashed into the wall. Yuma, who was in Koju's body, had a change of expression and stopped running. Ah! Painful screams came from their mouths, and then their temperament changed. Koju and Yuma regained control of their bodies, and their bodies were swapped back again. So that's how it is. If one of them receives a fatal attack, their body will immediately change. This magic doesn't seem to be anything special, Vatler said disdainfully. He then stared at Koju with a strange look in his eyes. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Koju's blood isn't bad, but his blood. I reckon it will be delicious food. Vatler licked his lips in disgust and turned to look at Dustless. He saw the huge bloody hole in his abdomen. This was all thanks to Koju, who had swapped bodies with Yuma of Shendu. Dustless is rarely injured. If I let this chance go, I might never get another chance in my life. Vatler was ambitious. His ambition won over reason. Dustless was heavily injured and Vatler didn't think he had much strength left. The human body was very fragile. I've been played. Dustless murmured. He didn't expect that Koju and Immortal City's Yuma had swapped bodies unknowingly. That was why he was careless when facing Yuma. In fact, this guy was Koju. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At the same time, an unfriendly shadow swooped down with a powerful charge. It almost reached the city in an instant. Its dark eyes were full of killing intent. However, Dustless only glanced at it and raised his leg without hesitation. A dazzling light covered it as he kicked out. Light speed kick. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The ray of light shot straight towards the black figure. Vattler. He can still attack with such a heavy injury? How perverted is this guy's constitution? Vattler's pupils constricted as he looked at the incoming flash of light. He didn't expect Dustless to be so heaven-defying. The skull in his abdomen was perfectly fine, and he could even use such a powerful move. Boom boom boom. The speed of the light was too fast, and Vattler did not even have time to defend himself. Tragedy befell him as he was forcefully annihilated by the light beam. A huge mushroom cloud of flames rose into the air with his body as the foundation. Plop. Vatula, who had been possessed by the god of misfortune, fell into a deep pit. His whole body was once again roasted. My plans have all gone down the drain. Have all my efforts failed? Yuma's eyes dimmed. Originally, she could have used this method to catch them off guard. She could have taken care of Dustless and killed Natsuki. Who would have thought that in the end, even Vattler, an unseen ally, was heavily injured. He was lying on the ground, moaning in pain. It ends here. Heavily exhaling the foul breath that had accumulated for a long time, Dustless's body suddenly felt much better. He completely ignored the bloody hole in his body. The recovery power of Jubi was extremely strong. This kind of injury would automatically recover. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Just when everyone thought it was a failure, a sharp sound broke through the air. This is... Dustless was startled. He suddenly remembered a small character that he had overlooked. He turned his head and stared at the Iron Knight who had subdued Nangong Natsuki. Shandamu Ai. He had forgotten about her in the fierce battle just now, so Wu Chen only remembered the mastermind behind the scenes now. I should have ordered it to help Koju kill Dustless. Why did it suddenly go after Natsuki? Seeing the Steel Knight subdue Natsuki, Shandamu Yuma was overjoyed. Idiot! You still don't understand the situation? Dustless snorted. The wounds on his body slowly healed. He said in a hoarse voice. Didn't I tell you before? You're just a chess piece, a tool. You're Shandamu Ice clone. Your body contains her power. Do I need to tell you who's controlling her? Do you understand what I mean? Could it be? Hearing this, Immortal Capital's Yuma's face fell. She stared at the Iron Knight that grabbed Nangong Natsuki and guessed who was controlling her. You're too careless, Natsuki. The Steel Knight spoke in human language. It sounded strange but Natsu knew who it was. Immortal City would it ye, you heretical devil. You even used your own daughter. With her strength, she shouldn't be so easily subdued. Is it because Koju's familiar was injured when he attacked the prison? Dustless narrowed his eyes. He carefully observed Natsuki's changes. Soon, he saw something unexpected. Bright red blood dripped from Natsuki's fingers. Her aura became weaker and weaker. Her face turned black. Her eyes were filled with darkness. Chapter 1557. Not only Dustless, everyone else noticed Natsuki's condition. Originally there were only a few drops of blood, but after a few seconds, more drops of blood fell. Natsuki's face became paler and paler. The dark circles under her eyes became thicker and thicker. In the end, her entire face was like ink, completely black. You don't seem to be worried at all. After ignoring Natsuki Nangong, the Steel Knight once again muttered to itself, I've fought with Natsuki for many years, and every time she's been able to suppress me. I'm not willing to give up, but this time I've finally succeeded in stepping on her corpse. Succeeded? Have you lost your mind after being in prison for 10 years? Hearing this, Vattler stood up with difficulty and mocked. You still haven't realized that Natsuki Nangong has disappeared. In the end you were too careless. As expected, the Steel Knight muttered to itself. I was one step behind. Looks like I underestimated her. I didn't think she still had the strength to escape. However, the only person whose expression didn't change was Dustless, who only sneered at the Steel Knight. This Shendu Mua Yi is quite shrewd. She's also a scheming bitch, extremely sinister. She clearly let Natsuki go on purpose to attract the attention of the prisoners while she secretly carried out other plans. TSK. What a rare smart woman. Dustless looked at the Steel Knight mockingly without moving, as if he was an outsider. In fact, the moment Nangong Natua disappeared, he was acutely aware of it. He also discovered that Immortal Wood Yi was openly stealing Nangong Natu's memories. Then, the Steel Knight's line of sight finally landed on Dustless's head. His entire body exuded a gloomy cold aura as he raised his sword again. Xiao. It launched a fatal sneak attack, turning into a ray of cold light as it pounced. Cough. Reckless thing. Vatler sneered. He dryly laughed at Shendu Mu Ye's overestimation of her abilities, calling her an idiot in his mind. For a witch like you to challenge a demon king, even 100 heads wouldn't be enough. Kill him. Koju was also excited. If possible, he would be more than happy to see Dustless suffer. Whoosh. Just as the Steel Knight was about to cleave Dustless apart, an unexpected scene happened. It suddenly changed its trajectory and pounced at the two figures on Dustless's left. Pucci! Koju almost coughed up blood after seeing this. He was shocked to find that Ice Target was him and Yuma. Mother, why is this happening? Shendu Mu Yuma asked in disbelief. That soul-stirring murderous aura was obviously not faked. She had gone through untold hardships to save Shendu Mu Yi, but she did not expect that this so-called mother would be so vicious that she wanted to kill her in the end. Just like that guy said, there is only one Shendu Mu Yi in this world. And you, Shendu Mu Yuma, are just a tool that has not completed my goal, so, please disappear. The Knight of Steel spoke indifferently. He swung his sword, and when he got close to Koju, he suddenly swung it at Yuma, who was beside him. Wanxiong Heaven's Pull. The blade fell, and just as it was about to kill Yuma, a powerful gravitational force came from behind, stopping the Steel Knight from moving. Instead, it flew toward Dustless. You seem to have forgotten your roots. Do you think you can be free after escaping the prison barrier? Maybe. But your freedom is only limited to the prison barrier. Blue light appeared on his fingertips, and the void twisted violently. Dustless aimed at the Steel Knight and flicked out an energy ball the size of a luminous pearl. Wang Su's flash. Without any external interference, the energy ball hit the Steel Knight without a doubt. It shattered into pieces and evaporated without leaving a trace. Boom. The seemingly harmless energy ball exploded with a loud bang, revealing an unprecedented horror. The pitch-black night sky was simply torn apart, and the blue light exploded, occupying the entire horizon. The sky at the center of the explosion caved in, emitting an absolute impact, raising the entire prison enchantment to the ground in one fell swoop. So strong. Koju and the others stared blankly at the caved-in sky. He was clearly a human, but the strength he displayed was something even a true ancestor could not compare to. The huge prison barrier complex disappeared into thin air. Crack. The void suddenly exploded, and countless black figures poked their heads out. Looking carefully, these people had ferocious looks, and were all extremely vicious villains. Oh, I really have to thank you. A melodious voice resounded through the sky. Wu Chen looked over and saw a stunning woman in a kimono who looked almost the same as Immortal Mu Yuma, but her temperament was obviously different. Compared with the immature Immortal Mu Yuma, this person was like a deadly poison, exuding charm all over her body. She was Yuma's mother, Yuma I. If you hadn't launched such a powerful attack and flattened the prison barrier, many of the prisoners would have been trapped inside. Everyone might have to thank you. Yuma I teased, and at the same time, countless prisoners laughed. No. You don't have to thank me. Dustless shook his finger, and a cold light gathered on his face. He sneered. I let you out, just to annihilate all of you. Please don't thank me. Chapter 1558. Dustless was afraid that his lifespan would be shortened if a bunch of people he was about to kill thanked him. This guy is very strong. Immortal Capital he didn't blink, her eyes as calm as water. Only when Dustless's body erupted with golden light did she realize the danger. What's that? A wave of energy suddenly appeared in the silent sky, forcing everyone to retreat. Then, A holy yet extremely evil golden light covered Dustless's body. A solid giant of energy slowly took shape. The aura this monster exuded was extremely contradictory. It was majestic yet holy, yet filled with an extremely evil aura. Compared to this giant, demons were like kind-hearted children. Ka ka ka. Inside the monster's lungs, the sound of bones assembling could be heard. The messy combination of bones and tendons was so numerous that it was hard to tell them apart. Even though it was a mess, it gave off a sense of order and regularity. A majestic giant took shape. It was several meters tall, about the same size as a true ancestor's familiar, but the pressure it exuded was far greater. Not only was it glowing, but it was also wearing a majestic and sinister helmet. Just a glance from it made people feel as if they were sitting on pins and needles. The mature Consusanu is enough to deal with you, but the complete Consusanu, forget it. If I don't control it well, I'll be doomed eternally. Maybe this island will collapse in a few hits. Dustless muttered to himself as he looked at the numerous prisoners. There are so many of you. Might as well use that to deal with you all in one go. Dustless willed the mature golden Consusanu to change. The sword of light in its hand disappeared, then turned into a dazzling beam of light that shot into the sky. Not good. For some reason, immortal Muai Yi had a bad feeling as she looked at the colossus in the air. She looked around and saw that it was not just her. The prisoners were already in a mess. Some of them who had sensed the danger were already scrambling to leave. Let's see what you can do. Thinking of her own strength, Immortal City Muai Yi calmed down. Although her spatial magic wasn't as wondrous as Nangong Natsuki's, at least escaping wasn't a problem for her. Let you out of prison? That's indeed the case, but wouldn't it be better to release all of you at once and finish you off in one move? Dustless in the void spoke in human language, but it was colder than ice. The prisoners on the ground were filled with uneasiness. Ayo ayo ayo. The mature body Consusanu let out a strange moan. Immediately after, everyone noticed that Consusanu's thick golden arms suddenly crossed. In the palms of both hands, a blinding light suddenly flashed, causing people to be unable to open their eyes. The scorching light was too damaging to the eyes, and looking at it for a few seconds could cause blindness. Consusanu. Looking down coldly at the terrified prisoners, the light that filled the sky poured down. Yasakani no Magatama. The power of Yasakani no Magatama was already unimaginable, and its area of effect was ridiculously large. Now that it was combined with Consusanu, its power increased exponentially, and so did its area of effect. Shio shio shio. The dazzling light bullets were like a hot knife through butter. They came and went without a trace. Although some of the fugitives reacted immediately, the speed of the light was too fast. Some of the prisoners didn't even have the chance to use their skills to resist before they were mercilessly torn apart. Puchi! 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 Their bodies were like funnels, and they were all shattered by the light bullets. All of them were pierced through by Consusanu, Yasakani no Magatama. Of course, there were exceptions to everything. Some of the lucky ones, or those who sensed the danger in advance, managed to escape. For example, the cunning immortal city Muai Yi. She used her spatial magic to escape. Even so, those who managed to escape were few and far between. At least 95 out of 100 people were instantly killed, and those who managed to escape were riddled with holes. It's almost over, it's time to look for Natsuki. Landing on the ground, Dustless walked away, ignoring Yuma who was in a daze. Passing by her, Dustless activated his observation hockey, and the Tensigan's exaggerated long-range tracking ability, carefully searching for traces of Natsuki Nangong. Natsuki, who has lost her memory, may be in the sea of people. Stop! Just as Dustless turned to leave, Immortal Capital's Mu Yuma stopped him. You are free. Leaving such a sentence, Dustless stopped and moved again. However, Yuma didn't seem to appreciate it. She instantly flashed in front of Dustless. I want to join forces with you to deal with Yuma. The girl's eyes showed a firm light. Even though most of the prisoners inside the barrier were eliminated, there were still some who managed to slip through the net. Quite a number of prisoners were forced to wander the streets. Those who could leave Itagami Island tried their best to leave, and those who couldn't were still searching for Natsuki Nangong. Based on the information they got from Yoko, Natsuki Nangong was still alive. Everyone started hunting him down. The prisoners were all attracted by Natsuki Nangong. As for Immortal City Mu Ah Yi, he also silently arrived at Rainbow Sea Academy. Looking at the school of the past that had changed, Immortal City Mu Ah Yi couldn't help but feel emotional. All of this will end here. Yuma's calm crystal eyes emitted a ferocious light, and the silent magical power in her body burst out, and the turbulent light slowly overflowed. On the other side, Koju was extremely depressed. When Dustless was about to kill all of them, Vatler, who once confessed to him, was the first to carry him on his back and hurriedly ran away, even leaving Yuma behind. This guy wants to devour me? Thinking of his great attraction to Vatler, Koju was full of uneasiness. Chapter 1559. Koju felt a deep sense of uneasiness, but this was understandable. It was his bad luck to meet a weirdo like Vatler. Koju suddenly regretted becoming the fourth true ancestor. After breaking out of the cocoon and becoming a true ancestor, his miserable life gradually began and didn't end. He was always being ridiculed without restraint. Especially Dustless. What was the most unacceptable was that now it was Vatler's turn to be ridiculed. This guy didn't put him, the fourth true ancestor, in his eyes at all. Don't force me, Humph, we'll all die together. Koju swore in his heart that he would rather die than live in dishonor. He couldn't tolerate Vatler's nonsense. Ha! Dustless stared at the girl in front of him. He felt like there was something wrong with his ears. Did I hear wrong? You want to ally with me to deal with Immortal Wuxia Yi? Dustless repeated Yuma's words and asked in disbelief. Are you sure you want to deal with your mother? You don't believe me? Yuma frowned. That's not it. Wu Chen shook his head like a rattledrum and said bluntly, I always feel that the change is too fast. After all, we were still enemies dozens of minutes ago. Suddenly, we jumped into a trench to deal with her. I always feel a little strange. It's a bit sudden, but I'm serious. Yuma had a serious expression and said, I want my freedom. In order to get rid of Immortal Wuxia Yi, I have to keep her locked up. Are you talking about keeping her in prison? You won't get such good treatment in the future. Dustless shook his head and said, There are only two paths waiting for Immortal Wuxia Yi. One is to go to hell, and the other is to completely obey my orders. How could there be such a good thing in the world if he wanted to continue living in prison? Not a chance. In any case, let's go find Natsuki first. With that, Dustless and Yuma left together. Yuma's destination was Koju's house. Dustless lived next door to Koju's house, so it was on the way. You want to tame Mother? No, you want to tame Immortal Wuxia Yi as your subordinate? Yuma asked in disbelief. Can you tell me the reason? Of course, you can refuse. I'm just asking out of curiosity. This planet is just a fart. The primogenitors have already divided it. Also, I don't like obeying orders, so I have to find a place to build my empire. I don't think Immortal Wuxia Yi is qualified as a fighter. If she is willing to submit, there will naturally be a happy ending. If she refuses, we can only send her to heaven. Dustless went straight to the point and did not conceal in the slightest. You want to take Itagami of this island for yourself? Yuma asked in shock. Other than Itagami Island, there didn't seem to be any other good place in this world. Why can't I? Dustless retorted and sneered at Yuma. You're worried about Koju, right? Do you think he's suitable to be a primogenitor? Well, Yuma fell silent. No matter how she looked at it, Koju wasn't suitable to be a primogenitor. Be it in terms of strength or other aspects, he was far from being a primogenitor. There's another big problem. If I remember correctly, that guy was captured by Vatler. Hee. What do you think will happen when a gentle sheep is captured by a hungry tiger? I hope that kid doesn't get devoured. I remember Vatler professing his love to Koju. Maybe Koju really did get influenced by Vatler. Dustless laughed in schadenfreude. Vatler, on the other hand, had the attribute of being gay. Impossible. Yuma retorted with a red face. Who knows? Wu Chen shrugged his shoulders. When he was about to turn his head and leave, he suddenly noticed that the corner of his clothes was pulled, and there was also a subtle voice. Dad. Although the voice was as soft as a mosquito's and could be ignored, Wu Chen, who had a keen sense of hearing, still heard it clearly. Immediately, he was extremely depressed. Just whose family did this brat come from? When did I have another daughter? Puzzled, he looked behind him and saw a young girl of a few years old. Her appearance was perfect. Her big eyes were like gemstones embedded in her eye sockets. Her beautiful black hair was hanging on her waist. Her round eyes were innocently staring at Wu Chen. This? Yuma stared at Dustless in disbelief. She didn't expect him to have a child. Don't misunderstand, I don't have a child. Hearing this, Wu Chen hurriedly denied. Damn, this super big black hole can't be carried casually. Maybe there will be a big problem. I know. Yuma nodded. She had investigated Dustless's background. He wasn't even married, let alone having a child. He didn't even have a girlfriend. Dad. The young girl pitifully tugged at Wu Chen's clothes and pointed to the candy store next to them. She looked up at Wu Chen with her innocent eyes. Her intention was self-evident. She licked her lips covetously. This girl. She can't be her, right? Squatting down, he was surprised to find that the girl in front of him was very familiar. After looking at her carefully, Wu Chen felt that the affairs of the world were unpredictable. He was very surprised and said gloomily, "Isn't this Nangong Natsuki? The world is so small. I didn't take the initiative to look for you and you came knocking on my door." Chapter 1560. Dustless was in a daze. He thought it would take a lot of time to find Natsuki. He didn't expect her to take the initiative and even call him Dad. In all fairness, Dustless's brain was not enough to process all of this. What are you going to do with her? Yuma frowned and asked. From Natsuki's innocent eyes, it was clear that she had lost her memory. The real Natsuki was always domineering. Let's bring her back for now. Dustless sighed with a headache. He could only take her home for now. If he let her walk on the streets, she would be killed by the prisoners in the prison. Cough, cough, cough. Dustless coughed awkwardly and squatted down. He looked at Natsuki's innocent eyes and grabbed her hand. It's getting late. Dad will take you home. No. Natsuki broke free from Dustless's hand. Even though the warmth made her feel comfortable, she still stubbornly said, I want to eat candy. Is this person really Natsuki Nangong? Although she is also very willful, only someone with a brain would make such a request. Dustless bitterly smiled and finally gave in. He raised a finger and said seriously, You have to go home in 10 minutes. Dad is the best. Nangong Na Yu immediately smiled and did not hesitate to carve a bite on Wu Chen's face. This girl. Dustless was stunned. He looked at Natsuki in a daze. He was a bit surprised by this sudden action, but this was not something to be happy about. If Natsuki regained her memory and came to find trouble with him, then he would be in trouble. Let's go buy candy for her first. Glancing at Shendu Mu Yuma, Wu Chen also followed. Immortal City Mu Yuma hesitated for a few seconds, then gritted her teeth and followed. If she wanted to send Immortal City Mu I back to hell, she had to borrow Dustless's power. Natsuki was given 10 minutes to shop in the supermarket, but in reality, it was more than an hour. After all, it was a woman's nature to shop. When they came out of the supermarket, Dustless's hands were filled with bags of various sizes. Really, I didn't expect to buy so many things. Shendu Mu Yuma glanced at the lively Natsuki and was speechless. Miss Shendu Mu, do you have the right to talk about her? Dustless couldn't help but complain. 1/3 of the bag in his hand was Immortal Wood Yuma's. Can the two of you hand over the children in your hands to me? A hoarse voice came from behind, as terrifying as a poisonous snake's tongue. That sudden killing intent caused the surrounding temperature to drop to an unimaginable freezing point. There are indeed a lot of fish that escaped the net. Dustless turned his head to reveal half of his eyes and sized up the person who had suddenly appeared. He was surprised to find that he actually knew this person. An old spirit summoner from the guerrilla army of the Middle East's Kabristan, a monster that was implanted with the flame spirit spell. 6 years ago, he attempted to cause a terrorist attack on Itagami Island and was sent to the prison barrier. Recalling the bald old man's information, Dustless concluded, You are Kalika, right? Look at your pitiful appearance. I can't bear to kill you. Can't you find a place where no one is around and die peacefully? Living in obscurity while at death's door suits you. Cough, cough, cough. Kalika coughed twice as if he was having asthma, then he said fanatically, I'm very happy that you are considerate of me. But I still have a stage in this world. I can't sink into oblivion. Is that so? Hearing this, Dustless's face turned as cold as a snowstorm. He revealed his killing intent and sneered coldly. You're already so old, yet you still don't repent and want to keep up with the times. You're quite ambitious. Unfortunately, the world is only so big. I alone am enough. You clowns can all go to hell. Swish. Swish. Kusanagi. Puchi. Swish. 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 Amaterasu. The old man's body burned with Amaterasu, turning his corpse into ashes. This happened very quickly. Due to the cold night, there weren't many people on the streets, so no one saw it. It's going to be very difficult to kill this guy. High up on the rooftop, the cold wind was blowing. A black figure was faintly discernible in the night, almost blending into the darkness. If she hadn't taken the initiative to speak, even if someone passed by, they wouldn't have noticed her presence. This person was Immortal Mu-ai. She revealed a grave expression, and her crystalline eyes were filled with caution. Kalika was merely a bait sent by her, or a test stone to test Dustless's strength. But Immortal Mu-ai helplessly realized that her thoughts were too naive. She didn't even know how Dustless killed him. Swish! Swish! While Immortal Mu-ai was thinking about how to deal with Dustless, a sharp sound broke through the air and she quickly realized that a cold light had locked onto her. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. His body turned into a gust of wind, and Immortal Capital Mu-ai dodged to the side without hesitation. Boom boom boom. As the purple light approached, the place where Xiandu Mu-ai was standing immediately turned into a huge pit. You! Her eyes like spring water swept over. In the darkness, a golden silhouette appeared. Celestial Mu-ai was quite surprised. She had never met this person before. Immortal Capital would, i.e., we can work together for once. Chapter 1561. Work together? Xiandu Mu-ai opened her mouth and let out an ear-piercing laugh. Her eyes were filled with anger and hostility. Her killing intent locked onto the invading blonde man. Vattler. She stared at the blonde man for a while and found that he was not hostile towards her. Xiandu Mu-ai felt strange but she retracted her anger. Work together with you? What a joke. What's the difference between that and setting myself on fire? Xiandu Mu-ai asked coldly. You're different from Dustless. Compared to him, I think you're more dangerous. I'm more dangerous than him? Hearing this, Vattler's face was filled with interest and surprise. He always thought he was not as good as Dustless. Vattler asked curiously, why don't you tell me? Are you sure you want to hear? Her beautiful purple eyes flashed with ridicule. Immortal Wood-ah-ye's beautiful voice was like the sound of nature. At this moment, there was only ridicule left. Of course. Vattler nodded. I also want to hear how I'm better than him. To be honest, I've always thought I'm not as good as him. Xiandu Mu-ai had to be direct. You're more cunning than him. You're a smiling tiger. You can turn hostile at any time. You! Vattler's mouth twitched. Was that a compliment? Bullshit. It was a blatant mockery, mocking Vattler's moodiness. All in all, that guy is my enemy and your enemy. Do you have the confidence to fight him alone? Vattler asked. By the way, I forgot to tell you that guy has a bunch of beautiful subordinates. Your daughter, Xiandu Mu-yuma, seems to have joined the fight against you. Okay, let's work together this time. Left with no choice, Xiandu Mu-ai could only agree to this unreliable alliance. After all, what Vattler said was the truth. I extracted information about the Book of Darkness from Natsuki's memories. I can use this chance to test it and use it as a trump card against Dustless. In the brightly lit room, Dustless and the others finally returned home. Jishwa Shelley and Kajisaka Sayaka had been waiting for him for a long time. Of course, there was also a special and unexpected person, Xiao Nagisa, Koju's biological sister. This fellow's consciousness should be Daybreak Nagisa. Agrora seems to still be in a deep slumber. After discovering that this guy wouldn't go berserk, Dustless felt relieved. In such a narrow space, although it wouldn't be a big deal if Agrora were to cause trouble, Dustless wouldn't be able to escape unscathed. Is something the matter, Miss Nagisa? After they entered the room, Dustless lazily laid on the sofa and casually said, "Your brother Koju is in big trouble." Boom boom boom. Dustless's words were even more effective than an elixir. The moment he finished his sentence, Xiao Nagsha's entire body emitted a vast amount of cold energy. The entire living room was instantly covered in ice and snow. Ah, how terrifying. Dustless pretended to be afraid and continued to provoke her. Koju was captured by Vatler. I don't think I need to explain it to you. Agurola. There was no doubt that Agrora's consciousness had taken over this body. Your information is very useful. I will remember your kindness this time. After saying this, Dawn Nagisa's body condensed into ice and left. Ah! When a woman gets angry, it's really scary. Dustless laughed at Vatler's misfortune. He was sure that Vatler was out of luck. Agurora valued Koju a lot and had helped him time and time again. He had even warned Vatler before, but judging from the current situation, Agurora's warning was useless. Vatler had crossed the line and crossed Agurora's bottom line. Senior, are you still in the mood to laugh? Jijua Shelley stared at Dustless and complained. The space of the entire Itagami Island has been twisted. It's almost a mess. Not to mention ordinary human beings and demons, even we are affected. That's right. We need to catch that detestable criminal as soon as possible. Huangban Sayaka also said loudly. You! Hearing this, Wu Qin stared at the two people strangely. When he was about to open his mouth to speak, a soft body suddenly threw itself into his arms. Daddy, I want to sleep. The little girl Natsuki blinked her eyes. She was no longer as bright as before. Instead, she looked very tired. She didn't care if Dustless agreed or not. She found a spot in Dustless's arms and closed her eyes. Senior, you have a daughter? Jijua looked at Dustless in shock. Humph. Huangban Sayaka snorted proudly. She curled her lips and said disdainfully, I told you, staying under the same roof with this guy will make you pregnant. It's normal to have a child. You too misunderstood. Seeing that Jijua Shelley and Huangban Sayaka had misunderstood, Yuma stepped out to help Dustless. This little girl is actually Nangong Natsuki from Saikai Academy. Impossible! Both of them exclaimed. Natsuki was also short, but not as short as this little kid, even though they looked almost the same. It's like this. Shendu Mu Yuma could only tell him everything that had happened. Wu Chen remained silent on the sofa. The dark world was mixed with a mysterious purple light. He knew that this was Shendu Mu Ice Trick, the ability of the Book of Darkness. Let's see what's different about you. About an hour later, Dustless coaxed Nathan Yu to sleep and left to find trouble with Immortal City Mua Yi. This farce has been going on for so long, it was time to end it. Don't care about anything else. Just beat her into submission. Swish! Swish! Dustless transformed into a black shadow and pounced out. The surroundings were deathly silent. There was no other enemy. Without a doubt, this enemy could only be Xiandu Mua Yi. You're courting death. Immortal Capital Mu A Ye's face turned cold, looking at Dustless's outrageous actions. Her calm state of mind inevitably gushed out some flames. This guy really looks down on people too much. Dustless actually wants to fight with her bare-handed, naked contempt. Whoosh! Her slender fingers gently waved, and the steel shadow behind her swept straight out, and the cold gleaming long sword also mercilessly slashed at Dustless. Could bare-handed humans withstand the sharp blades and shadows of swords? Of course, it's impossible. Immortal Capital Mua Yi finally let out a carefree laugh. If you can break my guardian knight, then I will submit to you. Immortal Capital Mua Yi pursed her lips, and the smile on her beautiful face did not seem to be a joke. However, after a few seconds, she suddenly regretted it. Then you are destined to become a dog. Dustless's eyes were like torches, and his right fist had been gently raised, and covered with a layer of invincible sharpness, and whispered, Armament hockey hardening. Shatter. Looking at the steel momentum close at hand, Dustless mercilessly punched out. Boom. The dull explosion spread out, and it was as terrible as the sound of thunder, followed by countless ka-ka-ka sounds, and under the stunned gaze of Immortal Capital Mua Yi, the guardian she trusted instantly disintegrated. This is too fragile. Immortal Capital Mua Yi turned her head and couldn't bear to look directly. She was afraid that she would be depressed and vomit blood. It was strange that a human's fist could be so heaven-defying. As you can see, I broke your broken copper and iron guardian with one punch. Now, please fulfill your promise, Miss Immortal Capital Mu. Dustless seriously stared at Immortal Capital Mua Yi, whose face was full of unhappiness, and whispered, "Of course, your head is on your head. Even if you want to go back on your words, I can't do anything." "Well, I will fulfill my promise, but..." The gem-like gorgeous purple eyes flashed with a sly light, and Immortal Capital Mua Yi proudly said, "I said before that I was willing to submit to you, but I didn't say that I will obey your orders now, and I will submit to you after 100 years. Hearing this, Dustless stared at her blankly and asked lightly, "Are you going to play word games with me? Then I also take back my previous promise, and I have changed my mind." With a fierce smile, Dustless's eyes flashed fiercely. "Since gentle means don't work, I will beat you until you complain. This is your own fault." Chapter 1563. Dustless's chilling smile was filled with boundless savagery. His glowing red eyes made Celestial Wood Aye's heart skip a beat. Cold sweat dripped down her forehead like raindrops. Celestial Wood Aye could feel the frigid air around her. It was so cold that she felt uncomfortable. She could even see ice shards in the air. They were all frozen by Dustless's murderous aura. Crack, crack, crack. Suddenly, the sound of bones cracking could be heard. Immortal Mu Aye's expression was slightly flustered. She realized that because Wu Chen's aura was too strong, it made it difficult for her to move. It was as if she had entered a gravitational field. Even moving her body was extremely strenuous. That majestic pressure pressed down on her bones, making her dizzy and unable to breathe. If the devil race and magic are heresy, then this guy is also heresy. He's the heresy of heresy. Immortal Wood Aye looked at Wu Chen, who was slowly walking over, and felt powerless. "Shadow!" Celestial Wood Aye muttered. The metal monster that was shattered earlier appeared again. It looked at Dustless coldly. Its body was emitting a bone-chilling aura. Under the control of its mind, it charged at Dustless again. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The black shadow charged at her at lightning speed. Celestial Wood Aye could only see a blurry shadow. She wanted to see Dustless's head separated from his body. But she was destined to be disappointed. Crack, crack, crack. At the same time, the entire island started to shake violently. The large island started to sink slowly. Some parts of the shore were already corroded by the seawater. Dense seawater continued to spread towards the center of the island. This Dark Oath scroll is indeed extraordinary. It can nullify all supernatural abilities and magic. The curse that created Itagami Island belongs to this category as well. I'm afraid it won't be long before the Book of Dark Oath dispels the curse and this island will sink. Immortal City Mua Yi is a super genius. To be able to dispel all kinds of supernatural abilities and spells. TSK. Impressive. Dustless lowered his head and gave Aye a few admiring glances. As for whether she was a good person or a bad person, Dustless didn't care. It was just an insignificant question. There was no such thing as good or evil in this world. Everyone only had different standpoints and beliefs. In other words, the victor was the righteous one. Shendu Mu Aye was judged as evil because she lost to Namiko Natsuki. Therefore, the winner, Namiko Natsuki, was righteous. Success! Immortal City Mu Aye was overjoyed and clenched her fists. Celestial Wood Aye's Iron Knight, Shadow, was closing in on Dustless. Just as he was about to raise his sword and kill him, Dustless was still standing there in a daze. His eyes flashed with a strange light from time to time, as if he had found something interesting. Die! With a shout, Immortal Mu Aye's eyes were filled with killing intent. At the same time, Shadow's sharp blade swept towards Dustless's neck. Such a powerful person is dead. What a pity. Sighing, Immortal City Mu Aye's eyes dimmed a little. She felt sorry for the death of a rabbit. After all, Dustless was a peerless genius just like her. Puchi! The sound of a body being cut apart was heard. It was very simple. There was no obstruction at all. It ends here. Sighing in relief, Immortal City Mua Yi muttered to herself. I can't forgive this crazy world. Those who look down on the witch are all guilty. Looking around, the entire Itagami Island was in her sight. Immortal City Mua Yi continued to mutter to herself. Now is the time to rewrite this world. Itagami Island is only the first step to redemption. I say, are you sick in the head? Your enemy is still standing here and you want to rewrite the world. What a joke. It's not impossible to change the world, but you should at least worry about your own safety. The owner of this voice was as terrifying as a natural enemy of immortal capital Mua Yi. Her calm and indifferent expression instantly changed to one of fear and shock. Turning his head with great difficulty, the scene that entered his eyes caused Xiandu Mua Ye's pupils to shrink. He originally thought that Wu Chen was dead, but he was actually alive and well. There was not a single scratch on him. How did this guy do it? Why did all the aptitude users on Itagami Island lose their abilities and mana? How did he break this iron law? Immortal City Mu Yuma stomped her feet in anger. Encountering something that she couldn't understand, she couldn't help but feel frustrated. Her calm mind was stirred up. Is that the Dark Oath book? Looking at the ancient book in Immortal City Mu Yuma's hand, Dustless immediately snatched it. Wanxiang Heaven's Pull. The sudden appearance of the gravitational force caught Xiandu Mua Yi off guard. Before he could react, the Dark Oath book in his hand disappeared. He could only watch it leave him, unable to react. Game over. His heart that was hanging in the air calmly fell to the ground. Wu Chen quietly stared at the unwilling immortal Wuda Yi and explained faintly, You may not be able to understand why I can ignore the ability of this technique. That's right. Immortal City Mua Yi nodded stiffly. She stared at Dustless, waiting for a reasonable answer. All the aptitude users and mana users on Itagami Island were affected by the Dark Oath book. Why are you unaffected? You have to give a reasonable explanation. First, after organizing his thoughts, Dustless said in a deep voice. It doesn't matter if you can understand it or not, you have to understand it. No matter what kind of ability it is, it's nothing in front of absolute power. Secondly, I'm not a native of this world. This might be the reason why the Dark Oath book can't affect me. Also, I don't know anything about magic, so how can it be nullified? You want to use a stupid book to limit my power? Those aptitude users that I killed are going to cry. Chapter 1564. When these words fell, Immortal Mu Ye's face was particularly colorful. Green, white, black, green. Her face was changing colors. There were only things that she could not think of and nothing that she could not see. Wu Chen's words really made her choke. What kind of answer is this? In Immortal City Wood Ye's ears, it was all nonsense without any basis or reason. What do you mean I'm not a person of this world? Were they looking down on the rest of the planet for being natives? Forget it. It's useless to say it. As a mortal, you won't understand what I mean. Dustless shook his head. He didn't want to waste time on this small issue. Don't think you've won. I still have some tricks up my sleeve. Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Immortal City Wood Ye's delicate face twisted. Her tone revealed her determination. It seemed like she wanted to die together with Dustless. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Then under Dustless's gaze, her body burned with purple flames. With Immortal City Wood Yi as the center, the flames gradually engulfed her body. This is... Dustless frowned. This scene, there was some familiar information in his mind. However, he couldn't remember what it was called. This is the so-called fallen soul. Offering your soul to the devil and then turning into a real devil. The true form of a witch. In short, she's crazy. A pleasant but nervous voice sounded. Dustless turned around and saw Immortal City Wood Yi, Jizhua, Shelley, Huangban Sha, Yaka, Nangong Natsuki and the others. Ha ha ha. You're all here. Immortal City Wood Ye's pleasant voice sounded. It was completely different from the pure voice from before. This time, there was a hint of a devil's seductiveness. Ai, why did you do this? Nangong Natsuki had obviously recovered her memory. However, her height was not restored. Her proud face had a complicated expression. The two of them had a good relationship in the past. They could be called best friends. Why? Immortal City Wuxia revealed a hateful smile and said loudly, "This world is wrong. Magic and the devil race, these things don't exist at all. What crime have I committed by restoring this world to its original state?" While there were still two consciousnesses, Immortal Wuxia continued, "But it's all because of this hateful guy. He ruined all my plans." "Ah, I was just following orders. Seriously, I got shot even when I was lying down." Dustless shrugged helplessly. Looking at the completely demonized immortal capital Wuxia, he said softly, "Shelly, I'll leave the rest to you." "Hand it over to her?" Nangong Na Yu and the others were stunned when they heard this. They looked at Dustless in confusion. His raised lips were filled with confidence. "Is there a way to save a Yi?" Nangong Na Yu was the first to ask. No matter what, immortal capital Wuxia was her close friend and had the responsibility to save her. What Celestial Wuxia said before is trustworthy. It's not as unreasonable as you think. Dustless rarely jumped to immortal capital Wuxia's side. He analyzed wisely. If it's as she said, immortal capital Wuxia can be saved. But I can't. I can kill one person, but saving her, that's not my strong point. I need Shelly. Dustless looked at Jijua Shelly and smiled. Type 7 Assault Demon Subduing Machine Gun, Snow Cloud Wolf. This is a gun that can restore the world. If it's Shelly, she should be able to do it. Restore the world? Nangong Na Yu's face was strange. If this came from immortal capital Wuxia, it would be normal. But now that it came from Dustless, she felt like Dustless was also brainwashed by immortal capital Wuxia. "Please don't look at me with suspicion. Just try it." Wu Chen continued very casually. "Treat it as a last resort. Just take it as a gamble. Anyway, you have no other way to help immortal Wuxia." "Are you confident?" A transfer student. Nangong Na Yu asked expectantly. After all, immortal capital Wuxia was one of her close friends. She didn't want to see her fall. "I'll try my best." Jijua Shelly said she would try her best. She didn't know if the Snow Cloud Wolf could help immortal capital Wuxia recover. "Let me take care of these bastards." Dustless's palm erupted with an almost invincible gravitational force. His right hand suddenly grabbed the void and a black hole appeared in his palm. Wanxiang Heavenly Attraction. The ghostly fire around immortal capital Wuxia was all sucked in by Dustless's gravitational force. They floated in the void and then boundless black light rapidly attacked. Dao breaking 90 black coffin. Puchi. These pulsating purple balls of light were fatally injured, and instantly collapsed. Now, only the immortal capital Wuxia was left, covered in light. Others might not understand, but Dustless clearly remembered that in the original work, Jimo Shuelai had used the Snow Cloud Wolf to save immortal Wuxia from the gates of hell. That's about it. Dustless glanced at Jijua Shelly. His meaning was self-evident. "I understand. Senior." After calming down, Jijua Shelly held the long spear and flew toward immortal capital Wuxia. The Snow Cloud Wolf in her hand emitted a piercing halo. "The son of Bai-An and the god of sword sorcerer is here to pray. Dawn of demon breaking, Snow Cloud Wolf, quickly use the power of the god of steel to help me destroy the evil gods and demons." After the chant, Jijua Shelly jumped up and the Snow Cloud Wolf's tip had already landed on immortal capital Wuxia. Crack. Suddenly, a crisp sound like a mirror shattering was heard. The light covering immortal capital Wuxia's body was completely retracted. Her unharmed body was exposed in front of everyone. Chapter 1565. This unbelievable turn of events stunned everyone, especially Jijua Shelly. She blushed in embarrassment. The Snow Dawn Wolf was her weapon, and she didn't know it as well as an outsider. Thinking of Jijua, Shelly's face blushed with embarrassment. "You can even understand this kind of thing. Who exactly are you?" Immortal Wuxia opened her eyes with difficulty, her gem-like eyes staring at Dustless. "I'm just an ordinary person who can't be more ordinary." Dustless casually said perfunctorily, "You should be convinced now. You only have yourself to blame for falling into such a state. All right, you can reflect in prison, i.e." Nangong Na Yu said indifferently. She waved her hand, and a purple magic formation appeared in the air. Countless chains shot out and circled around immortal Wuda Yi. I have to go back again? God is so unfair. Immortal Wuda Yi smiled bitterly. She just came out for a breath of fresh air and was about to be locked up again. Cough, cough, cough. At this moment, Dustless suddenly coughed and winked at immortal Wuda Yi. He smiled maliciously and looked like he wanted her to beg for his help. Do I really have to bow to this guy? But if I refuse, I'll have to return to that prison barrier where I can't see anyone. The immortal city Mu-Ah-Ye's mind spun quickly. She clenched her tender fists tightly as a troubled expression appeared on her face. No one wished to become someone else's underling. Even though Wu Chen's display of strength made immortal Mu-Ah-Ye prostrate herself in admiration, it did not mean that she could become Wu Chen's underling without any grudges. I promise you. After immortal city Mu-Ah-Ye pondered for a while, she finally chose to collude with Silver Wolf. There was no other way. She had stayed in that dark enchantment for a full 10 years, and did not want to continue living like the end of the world. What did she promise you? Nangong Na Yu pointed at immortal Wuda Yi and asked unkindly. She felt uneasy. She's going to be my follower. Dustless said as if that was how it should be. He walked up to immortal Wuda Yi and healed her. He smiled gently and said, Your injury is just a small matter. We have the same idea. We can work together. Advance hand in hand? Nangong Natsuki's eyelids jumped. She glared at Dustless and said, Be your subordinate? Did I allow it? Dustless, stop dreaming. Yi is just a criminal. He can't be your subordinate. Also, your boss is called Nangong Natsuki. In other words, no matter what, you won't let them go? Dustless faintly stared at Natsuki Nangong. His eyes clearly changing. You want to make a move against me? Nangong Natsuki asked while clenching her teeth. She secretly cursed Dustless for being bewitched by a fox. Internal strife? This is interesting. Immortal capital Mu-Ah-Ye looked at the two of them with interest. Ripples appeared in the depths of her eyes as she glanced back and forth between Dustless and Nangong Natue. I won't fight you, but... Dustless smiled calmly. I will leave Itagami Island. Natsuki Nangong glared at Dustless. This guy is doing this on purpose. Because of Dustless, Itagami Island can't afford to offend big shots like Vatler and the first primogenitor of the War Monarch's territory. If Dustless loses this nuclear weapon or leaves Itagami Island, those big shots will have nothing to worry about. They might even cause trouble for Itagami Island. On purpose. Natsuki Nangong glared at Dustless angrily. She wanted to swallow this brat alive. She knew Itagami Island's predicament and did this on purpose. Amazing. Immortal capital Mu-Ah-Ye was impressed. She looked at Natsuki Nangong Natsuki's helpless expression. Dustless can live comfortably without Itagami Island. However, Itagami Island is different. They offended a lot of big shots because of Dustless. If Dustless leaves, those big shots might come for revenge. You win. After a few seconds of silence, Natsuki Nangong Natsuki sighed. She lowered her head and compromised. I will tell the people in the commune what you want. But you have to keep an eye on Yi. She is very dangerous. No problem. Wu Chen patted his chest and nodded with a smile. Dustless and immortal capital Mu-Ah-Ye walked side by side on the street. Why are you so obsessed with me? I might think that I'm a genius, but I don't seem to be of any use to you. Immortal capital Mu-Ah-Ye expressed her doubts. She couldn't understand why Dustless valued her. Miss Immortal Capital Mu, you don't have to belittle yourself. Dustless shook his head. He didn't doubt Immortal Capital Mu-Ah-Ye's ability. Can you use your Dark Oath scroll again? Dustless asked expectantly. Immortal Capital Mu-Ah-Ye fell silent and nodded. This kind of small matter was nothing to her. She replied calmly. Of course. Is that so? I didn't misjudge you. Dustless kept her in suspense and smiled mysteriously. I want you to go to Europe and use your Dark Oath scroll in War Monarch's domain to strip all vampires of their abilities. War Monarch's domain? Immortal Capital Mu-Ah-Ye was stunned. What do you want to do to War Monarch's domain? If you get caught, it will be the same as declaring war on them. Didn't I say it before? This world has limited territory and there are too many vampires and primogenitors. It's hard to rule. I can be the strongest in this world. That's why there are so many rewritten maps. Chapter 1566. Hearing Wu Chen's deranged thoughts, Immortal Mu'a Yi was dumbstruck, and his mind went blank for a moment. Although he had heard that Wu Chen and the War King domain had many conflicts, he never thought that this guy would be so daring. You're not going to start a war with the first true ancestor, are you? Also, don't tell me that I'm the only subordinate you're talking about right now. Immortal Mu'a Yi asked with a dark face. You're really smart. I didn't misjudge you. You're my only subordinate. Dustless was surprised. He didn't expect Immortal Mu'a Yi to figure it out. This woman was really smart. Immortal Mu'a Yi couldn't take it anymore. She rolled her eyes and spat out blood. This guy didn't feel ashamed. He was actually proud. The two of us can fight against the true ancestors? Immortal Mu'a Yi's mouth twitched. Wasn't this just asking for trouble? Of the 4 true ancestors, other than Koju, the other true ancestors all had powerful forces. The most powerful country on this planet was the true ancestors' Empire of Darkness. Fight! Dustless glanced at the shocked Immortal Mu'a Yi and said, You're overestimating them. This is just a boring one-sided battle. Please don't overestimate those vampire bats. Vampire bats? Immortal Mu'a Yi was depressed. Although she felt that the name vampire bats was quite suitable for vampires. Actually, I'm the same as you. The existence of the so-called demons in this world is completely unnecessary. This planet is pitifully small and has limited resources. The true ancestor's existence is completely unnecessary. Dustless didn't hide his purpose and said, So, it's better to get rid of the vampires as soon as possible. But can the two of us do it? That's impossible. Immortal Mu'a Yi said bitterly. At the same time, she understood why Dustless wanted to rope her in. She went straight to the point. Even if I use the Dark Oath Book to remove all the abilities of the Battle Monarch domain, I can't destroy them in a short time. Plus, the Battle Monarch domain has a huge range. It's impossible to use the Dark Oath Book to cover all the territories. It doesn't matter, as long as we cover their capital. Dustless chuckled, revealing an unexpectedly profound smile. As long as he could eliminate the abilities of the true ancestors, he could summon meteors from outer space to destroy the Battle Monarch domain. Vampires who had lost their magic were nothing but trash. The next morning, the morning breeze was strong and mighty. Looking from afar, one could see the sparkling and limitless sea. Last night, according to Dustless's plan, Yoshi left Itagami Island early in the morning and headed to Europe's warlord's domain alone. Even though Natsuya noticed that I was gone, she chose to ignore it. Dustless had promised that I would not destroy Itagami Island. Natsuya had no choice but to turn a blind eye. Come to think of it, Koju hasn't returned since he was captured by Vatler. Under the scorching sun, Dustless muttered to himself under the shade of a tree. Koju's mysterious disappearance, Dustless guessed that Vatler had secretly captured him. As for why, Dustless had no idea. Out of humanitarian considerations, Dustless couldn't bear to let Nagisa stay at home alone. So, he invited her to stay at his place for a few days. Women are really troublesome creatures. Through the window, Dustless bitterly smiled as he observed the women walking around the shop. That was a lingerie shop. It wasn't appropriate for him to enter. That! A weak voice suddenly came. Wu Chen turned his head and looked over. What came into his eyes were 2 white-haired girls. Their appearance and facial features were extremely exquisite. They were living beauties. 2 stunning beauties joined. One of them had a noble and refined temperament. Her entire body exuded a noble aura. Her delicate face was like carved jade, without a trace of flaw. The other one was also a white-haired beauty. She looked at Wu Chen with a somewhat embarrassed expression. Her expression was somewhat timid. The 2 of them were Lafria and Kanace Cannon. Stop fooling around. I won't choose lingerie for you. Dustless glanced at the 2 and turned around impolitely. His expression said, I'm a gentleman. You've got the wrong person. What a joke. A man entering a lingerie shop would cause the police to call the police. Really? It's not gentlemanly to refuse a lady's invitation. You're too tasteless. Lafria shook her head and complained. You can't even move in front of a beauty. I'm starting to wonder if you're a man. Sorry, I don't know anything about gentlemanly. I'm just a country bumpkin. Dustless ignored Lafreya's complaints. He felt more comfortable sitting down and drinking. That Dustless. A weak voice suddenly sounded. Kanace Cannon mustered her courage and took a step forward. Just as she was about to speak, something unexpected happened. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A series of sharp air-breaking sounds came from afar. Wu Chen frowned slightly and looked up slightly. A slight cold light invaded his eyes. Trying to kill someone in broad daylight. You've got some guts. Dustless looked at the cold light that had locked onto Kanace Cannon, Lafreya, and himself. He did not move. He released some of his Ryatsu and an indestructible barrier was formed. Bakudo 81, Skybreaker. Bang bang bang. A transparent barrier appeared in an instant, blocking all the incoming cold light. At the same time, a strangely dressed man walked out of the dark alley. Chapter 1567. Dustless frowned as he stared at the person who suddenly appeared in the alley. When he saw the person's attire, he suddenly understood. So it's you. Natsuki called me last night and said that the sage's spirit blood was stolen by a thief. You must be the idiot in the white shirt and checkered hat. Dustless stared at the person with interest as he pulled Cannon and Lafreya behind him. His eyes were as cold as the wind, and the surrounding temperature instantly dropped. Creak! Even the green leaves on the trees were frozen and turned into ice. As soon as the wind blew, they withered. Although this guy looks sloppy and lazy most of the time, he is very reliable. Lafreya said with a smile. She believed that Dustless was much more reliable than Koju. In the original work, Akatsuki Koju's body would often be controlled by the enemy, or even possessed by the enemy. This kind of bitter thing happened from time to time. Did you say that I am an idiot? When the newcomer heard this, his face flashed with killing intent. His gaze shifted from Lafreya and Kanace Cannon to Wu Chen, and a wave of hostility surged out of him. This is blasphemy to the great alchemist. Also, my name is Gong Tenzuka. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, the man turned into a storm and swept over. His right arm suddenly turned into liquid, surging like a stream of water. Then, with a slight movement of the mind of the Tenzuo tribute, it was immediately compressed into a large blade that radiated cold light. Boom boom boom. Gong Tenzuka stomped on the ground, causing the cement floor to crack. He jumped into the air and used the momentum of the fall to descend from the sky. Cut me in half, trash. Tenzuka Gong's face was twisted like a madman. His expression was like that of an evil ghost. His right hand had turned into a broadsword and was about to chop Dustless's head. Get out of the way! Witnessing Tenzuka Gong's ferocious and arrogant behavior, especially his cold eyes and murderous aura, it was as if he didn't care how many people he killed. The panicked Cannon and Lafreya grabbed Wu Chen's arm and tried to pull him away. However, Dustless's body seemed to be integrated with the earth, and no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't move him. A clown wants to kill people? Without even looking at Gong Tenzuka, Dustless just sneered. His cold face flashed a playful look, and at the same time, his dry mouth slightly opened. Armament hockey hardening. The head made of flesh and blood immediately changed, and the skin turned into an indestructible helmet, as hard as steel. Clang 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 clang. The broadsword slashed down on Dustless's head with all its might. Immediately, there was the sound of his head collapsing. Countless fragments fell down like dregs. He couldn't be more dead. However, Tenzuo Gong couldn't bring himself to be happy. He hit Wu Chen with all his might, but something unexpected happened instead. Is this guy's head made of diamond? Tenzuka Gong asked, dumbfounded. That broken thing was the broadsword in his hand. Because Dustless's head was too hard, he was not hurt at all. Instead, his weapon was shattered. With your garbage level, you want to fight with me? You're still a few hundred years too early. Dustless said coldly, staring at Gong Tenzuka's abdomen, and a ray of light came out of his fingertips. Laser! The destructive beam shot straight out, and the edge went straight to Gong Tenzuka. Although he was aware of the danger and chose to temporarily avoid the edge of the light, The speed of the light was too fast for Gong Tenzuka to avoid. Poochie! The light penetrated Gong Tenzuka's body, leaving a big hole in his abdomen, and the wound made people's scalp numb. However, this guy was not affected at all, and he stared at Dustless. It's difficult to kill me. It's even impossible. Gong Tenzuka laughed, and at the same time, he walked to the street lamp on the side of the road, grabbed the metal railing, and with a little force, it liquefied and immediately swallowed into his body. The huge wound on his abdomen also healed. Not bad. Dustless nodded slightly. As long as his body was injured, he could swallow the metal to heal the wound. Such a comprehensive ability was worth it, and perhaps this was Gong Tenzuka's biggest advantage. Hand over the 2 girls behind you. Glaring at Dustless, Gong Tenzuka said in a low voice, I can spare your life. Don't make a mistake. Without knowing the depth of Dustless's strength, Gong Tenzuka didn't dare to act rashly. This guy's head is too strange. Even with my strength, I can't kill him. He's a monster. Gong Tenzuka thought about Dustless's weakness, and suddenly found that there seemed to be no weakness. He couldn't even cut through his skin. What else could he threaten him with? Spare my life. Dustless laughed, and then with a move, Cannon and Lafria were frightened. Dustless suddenly grabbed the 2 girls' arms and pulled them into his embrace. Then, he slightly opened his legs and pressed on their shoulders. Cannon and Lafria both sat on Dustless's legs. I won't hand them over to you. If you don't like it, come and bite me. Wu Chen's appearance of hugging women on his left and right was extremely annoying. His unruly face was even more irritating to Tian Zhonggong. Tian Zhonggong stared at him as if he was looking at garbage. He did not hide his ridicule. This guy is really a headache. Lafria and Cannon, who were sitting on Dustless's legs, blushed in embarrassment. But with the enemy in front of them, they could only snuggle into Dustless's embrace. Gong Tenzuka's face twitched, and his expression was constipated. Dustless's proud expression seemed to be saying, so what if I bully you for not having a girlfriend? Chapter 1568. Tenzuka Gong glared at Dustless. His smiling face was asking for a beating. Lafreya and Hanace Cannon purposely went along with Dustless and leaned into his arms. The 2 goddesses were as lazy as kittens with a satisfied smile on their faces. Damned bastard. What do you take the battle with me for? Be serious. Tenzuka Gong was shocked and angry. He was being looked down upon. This guy even used him as a tool to pick up girls. You want me to be serious? With an idiot like you? Dustless did not put Amaterasu Gong in his eyes at all. His words were as unpleasant as they could be. He did not treat Amaterasu Gong as a person at all. Of course, he wasn't a human to begin with. In the end, he was just an artificial life form similar to Astaruti. The one who created him was the so-called sage. You're courting death. After being humiliated again and again, Tenzuka Gong could not bear it anymore. He waved his hand, and countless cold steel lights were as numerous as a rainstorm. Ignoring the definition of distance, they directly shot in front of Dustless in an instant. You're always using this kind of trash move. Wu Chen shook his head. His face was full of disappointment. At the same time, the dormant chakra in his body broke out, the deep Rinnegan rippled, and a visible ripple broke out. Shinra Tensei! Bang! 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 All kinds of spikes were repelled by the repulsive force. Dustless, Lafreya, and Kanace Cannon, who were under his protection, were unharmed. What kind of ability does this guy have? All kinds of moves, too many to count. Tenzuka Gong was depressed. He couldn't even get close to Dustless now. But, my target isn't this kid. Laughing sinisterly, Tenzuka Gong's gaze finally landed on Kanace Natsuan and Lafreya. His oily green eyes were filled with playfulness, and his lips would occasionally move slightly, letting out the excited laughter of a hunter who had encountered his prey. Since you want to die so much, Dustless's eyes shot out a dazzling sharp light. His entire body turned into a flash of light and disappeared in an instant. The speed of light could not be captured, and no creature would be able to capture it. What is this? Light. Even an alchemist like Gong Tenzuka was stunned on the spot. What he saw in his eyes was a flash of super light, but he didn't know what it was. I have to retreat. This guy is too dangerous. I might even lose my life. In a brief trance, Amatsuka Gong vaguely saw Dustless's ferocious face. His whole body was cold and desperate. His dead eyes were emotionless, just like a machine. At the same time, the Tenzuka Gong felt a cold, baleful aura lock onto him. He instinctively wanted to escape, but he was shocked to find that his body was not listening to him at all. He could not move his legs at all. Damn it! Tianzhong Gong cursed loudly. He was sweating profusely. He knew that it was caused by Wu Chen's murderous aura. At the same time, the owner of the flash arrived. He glanced at Tianzhong Gong's ugly face and kicked him mercilessly. Light speed kick. The flash of light hit Gong Tenzuka's body with full force. His body emitted violent fluctuations. His face was hit by a powerful force and exploded into a pool of unknown liquid. Then, a huge mushroom cloud rose into the sky. Hot air and shockwaves burned everything. The buildings on both sides of the street collapsed and disappeared completely. Fragile objects such as glass were all turned into dense sparkling fragments. Gong Tenzuka himself was even more miserable. He was sent flying dozens of meters away by Dustless's kick. He bounced on the ground like a football. His body and appearance no longer existed. His face was destroyed by Dustless's kick. Now, he had turned into a pile of liquid metal. Such strength! Could it be that the fifth true ancestor has appeared in this world? Tianzhong Gong turned into flowing liquid metal. The terror of Dustless rose to an unprecedented level. This guy was so ferocious that he didn't seem like a human. I hate people who like to take hostages the most. When I meet this kind of despicable person, I will always reveal my strength to beat him or her into submission. Just like the immortal city Mua, Yi. However, in my eyes, you are just a trash that no one wants. You are far different from the immortal city Mua Yi. Senpai. Jijua Shelley, Hanban Sayaka, Azure Wing Asakani, and Koju's sister, Koju's Nagisa, rushed to the scene of the incident. I have already dealt with this kid. You guys just arrived. The people from the Lion King organization are indeed unreliable. Choosing something like underwear can take more than 10 times more time than ordinary people. Wu Chen looked at the several women with big and small bags and complained. You guys have guts. How dare you attack us? Don't you know that this island is going to be called Dustless from now on? Hanban Sayaka, who was always the bravest, took a few steps forward. Her eyes were like torches, emitting an oppressive cold light. This guy. Wu Chen rolled his eyes at Huang Bansa Sayaka. His fingertips emitted a huge flash of light as he aimed at that pool of liquid. His eyes emitted endless cold light, and the sound of ghosts crying and wolves howling could be heard. Forget it. If I use that here, it will cause too much of a commotion. After the energy ball condensed for more than 10 seconds, it suddenly extinguished. Under the astonished gaze of several people, Dustless finally turned around and left lazily. A living person turned a deaf ear to it, and directly ignored the Amaterasu tribute. Senpai, are you going to let that guy go? Jijua Shelley was surprised. Of course not. Don't forget that this is the city. There are too many passers-by. Also, Gong Tenzuka will come to me sooner or later. As long as Cannon was around Dustless, Gong Tenzuka would continue to visit him. Jijua Shelley's worry was unnecessary. Chapter 1569. Tenzuka Gong's face looked like he had constipation. Today, he came here with a lot of confidence. He thought that he could easily win the fight, but who would have thought that he would be defeated? Just you wait, I won't let this go. His face twisted violently as he glared at Dustless and the others. The cold light in his eyes seemed to imprint Dustless and the others in his heart forever. If I have the chance in the future, I will cut you into pieces. Time flew, and soon, it was the next morning. Dustless's house. Why did you buy so much cat food? Do any of you have a cat? I remember that the apartment doesn't allow animals. Dustless sat on the sofa and asked lazily while eating snacks. Also, where are you going? Don't go out if you have nothing to do. You are all good mediums. Tenzuka Gong is watching you. Once you go out, he will follow you like a shadow. Taking a closer look, a Sonian Blue Feather, Jijua Shelley, Sayaka Kawasaka, Nagisa, Hane's cannon, and Lafreya were all ready to go for a hike. Stop nagging. People might think that you are an old man. Hane's cannon said disdainfully, we have so many people. Can't we beat that guy? You are underestimating us. Although we are not as strong as you, we can take care of Tenzuka Gong. Even if you look down on people, you should know when to stop. That's right. The girls nodded. Hane's cannon looked like a big sister now. You guys. You are right. You can go wherever you want. I can't stop you. But, I still need to remind you to leave as soon as possible if you encounter any danger. Dustless thought about it and felt relieved. Hane's cannon was right. Wuxia and Hane's cannon could easily take care of Tenzuka Gong, so he didn't need to worry about it. Senior, we might not be back in the afternoon. The lunch I prepared yesterday is in the fridge. Wuxia's voice came from outside the door. Dustless nodded silently. Looking at the several figures, he couldn't help but feel a little dizzy. Unknowingly, he had stolen Koju's script. Let alone Blue Feather and Wuxia. Even Koju's sister was temporarily living in his house. It's worth mentioning that Koju is still missing. Lord Dustless. At this moment, a strange monster suddenly emerged from the ground. It was naked, and its skin was pale white. It did not have any gender. This was the white Zetsu that Dustless had specially created to make it easier for him to communicate with Immortal Capital Mua Yi. Is it done over there? Immortal City Mu A Ye's work efficiency is very high. Putting down the snacks in his hand, Dustless's calm eyes rippled, and his killing intent surged and wreaked havoc. At this moment, in the capital of the first true ancestor's warlord domain, this place was filled with a large number of purple runes. The scale was so large that it covered the entire majestic city. This sudden scene caused the vampires to be confused. I can't use my mana. Could it be Immortal Capital Mua Yi? I thought she was captured by Dustless. But she sure has guts to come to War Monarch's domain to do something like this. This is as serious as starting a world war. In a luxurious mansion, Vatler frowned. He encountered this situation on Itagami Island as well. It was the day Immortal Capital Mua Yi escaped from her prison. Phew! At this moment, Immortal Capital Mua Yi was looking at the city filled with mysterious runes and curses. She was a little nervous. She was following Dustless's plan. If Dustless stood her up, Immortal Capital Mua Yi would have to face the wrath of War Monarch's domain alone. The first primogenitor, Forgotten War Monarch, was a true powerhouse. Even two Kojus combined wouldn't be his match. Are you trembling? Are you afraid of the first primogenitor? An indifferent voice came from beside Immortal Capital Mua Yi. Immortal Capital Mua Yi was stunned. Her pupils contracted when she saw who it was. She asked in shock. When did you show up? The one who came was Dustless. I left the Flying Thunder God spell on you. I can teleport with a thought. Dustless explained casually. Dustless looked down at the luxurious city. A sharp glint flashed in his eyes. I don't like to cause trouble, but I'm not afraid of it either. Those who offend me will die, including primogenitors. Dustless's expression was so cold that Immortal Capital Mua Yi thought he was a robot. He didn't have any emotions that a living being should have. War Monarch's domain has a lot of people. It's not as simple as Itagami Island. All we need to do is sink the island and everything will be destroyed. It will take a lot of time to get rid of all of them. There were countless elite vampires in this city, and the population was in the tens of millions. Although their magic and special abilities had been removed, even if there were 10 million pigs, it would still take a few months to catch and kill them all. You don't have to worry about that. Dustless was unfazed. His body glowed with a golden light. High-density materialized chakra was released. A double-faced Kansusanu appeared and made the same hand seals as Dustless. It's enough to destroy this eyesore, tenebrous quaking star. Chapter 1570. Immortal Wuda Yi didn't really understand Dustless's words. She looked at the golden giant and felt a chill run down her spine. She could vaguely see the look in Dustless's eyes, and her expression changed. About a dozen seconds later, the people in the Battle King's domain were at a loss. They suddenly realized that the sky had mysteriously darkened. It was still daytime. Why did it suddenly turn dark? Speaking of which, why are there so many strange things happening recently? Who knows? Perhaps our battle monarch domain is so strong that even the gods are afraid of it. Perhaps the heavens are playing a joke on us, ha ha ha. That's right. The battle monarch domain is the strongest among the true ancestors. The people who didn't know what was going on all laughed as they looked at the black shadow in the sky. They were all bored and joking, and it just so happened that Dustless and immortal Wuxia heard it. The ignorant are fearless. It's not a bad thing to die happily like this. There were no ripples in his calm eyes. Wu Chen's eyes didn't have the slightest ripple. He maintained his calm from beginning to end. There was nothing to be emotional about this continent that was about to be destroyed. Everything would become history. Look, what's that? A meteorite? Damn it, how are we supposed to block that? Perhaps only the familiars of true ancestors can deal with it. Idiots, everyone has mysteriously lost their mana and abilities. How are we supposed to summon familiars? Let's run. If we get hit by that thing, we're dead for sure. A bunch of idiots. Look at the area covered by that meteorite. The entire region is under attack. We can escape if we want to, but we'll have to run to another continent. When the meteorite was infinitely close to the ground, the elites of the battle monarch domain all panicked. Looking at this unprecedented super meteorite, everyone was scared out of their wits. Some people's hearts were dead. They could already see the tragic scene of the battle monarch domain being destroyed. Damn it, it must be Dustless's doing. Only he has such a strange ability. Moreover, immortal Wuxia has joined forces with Dustless. Through the window, Vatler stared dumbfoundedly at the falling meteor, his heart filled with despair. In the past, when they still had mana, they could still summon familiars to defend themselves. However, now that everyone's mana had mysteriously disappeared, the vampires were no different from humans. The only thing that awaited them was death. No wonder. No wonder you said that you could end this battle in an instant. Now it seems that it was indeed a one-sided slaughter. The vampires in the Battle King's domain didn't even have the ability to retaliate. Immortal Wuxia was also gasping in shock, her chest heaving up and down. She was quite frightened by the slowly falling meteor. Her beautiful eyes widened. She tried to capture the specific range of the meteor, but found that it had no boundaries. It was as if the meteor was as big as the first true ancestor's battle monarch realm. Time to retreat. Dustless suddenly grabbed immortal Wuxia's waist. Just as he was about to leave, a slap came towards him. Pervert. Realizing that she was grabbed by Dustless, immortal Wuxia instinctively slapped him. However, in the next second, she regretted it. What if this guy got angry and killed her? Slap. After all, he had destroyed several worlds. How could Dustless be slapped by immortal Wuxia? He easily caught the fragrant hand that was attacking him. First of all, Heaven Trembling Star is a spell that will take the enemy down with you. You and I are also in its range. Now that the meteor is about to fall with your speed, it will be very difficult to escape from its range. If you want to wait for death, then you can stay here and die for the Battle King's domain. Sorry, I still have things to do. Goodbye. Dustless ignored immortal Wuxia. Just as he was about to leave, a pair of warm arms wrapped around his waist. Turning his head, he saw that it was immortal capital Wuxia, whose face was filled with awkwardness and depression. You want to die. In the end, you still don't want to die. Wu Chen glanced at celestial Wuxia with extreme boredom. He couldn't help but shake his head. With a slight thought, he and celestial Wuxia disappeared from the chaotic Battle King domain. The news of the Battle King's domain being destroyed by the meteor will spread all over the world tomorrow. The vampires who lost their mana will be like food on a plate. They won't be able to resist a super meteor with a diameter of more than 10 kilometers. Wu Chen and Xiantu Mu'ai appeared in the empty room. He had set up a flying thunder god in his house, so he could return to Itagami Island from War Monarch's domain with just a thought. Where are your little lovers? Immortal Wuxia looked around curiously and found that there was no one in the room. She stayed in Dustless's room for a while. She was curious about this boss room. Without the master's permission, please do not wander around other people's houses. Especially my room. Dustless reminded her with a serious tone. He frowned and said, As for Shelley and the others, if I'm not mistaken, they might have gone to the Audiobook monastery. Canon has a lot of kittens there. They even bought a lot of cat food before they left. I'm a little worried about them. Let's go take a look. Dustless rubbed his nose helplessly. He found that he couldn't eat or sleep well. There was a fire in his heart that he couldn't calm down. Unknowingly, his mind was affected by the departure of the girls. People change. Dustless's state of mind also changed slightly when he lived under the same roof as the girls. Chapter 1571. Immortal City. Mua Yi stared at Dustless in astonishment. As an expert, most people were cold and emotionless. Usually, the more powerful a person was, the colder their personality would be. Not to mention so-called friends, even if it was a child or wife, they would turn a deaf ear and abandon them at any time. Dustless could barely be considered a good boss. Is there something on my face? Sensing Immortal City Mua Yi staring at him, Dustless subconsciously touched his face, thinking that there was something dirty on his face. No. Immortal City Mua Yi gave a short answer. Why are you staring at me? Really? Dustless muttered and left the house. Before he left, he didn't forget to say, stay at home. If you go out and cause trouble, I'll be the first person Nangong Natsu will find trouble with. What are you afraid of? Even if you cause a big problem, no one will blame you. Immortal City Mua Yi turned left and right, occasionally going to Dustless's room to sit and tossing around as if looking for something. Stop, you thief. Dustless angrily warned. This guy was too casual and didn't treat him as an outsider at all. Immortal City Mua Yi made a face and ignored Dustless, whose face had darkened. Can't you see that Nangong Natsu is very loyal to you? When I say loyal, I don't mean a simple superior and subordinate relationship. I know Natsuyu's personality. After all, we were once close friends. What are you trying to say? Dustless frowned and asked. If you have something to say, then say it. I don't have time to listen to your nonsense. You should know that compared to an unemployed person like you, I'm very busy. In any case, Natsuyu cares about you a lot. Immortal City Mua Yi said meaningfully. At the same time, he looked at Dustless with shining eyes for a while. I really don't know what she sees in you. Boring question. Knowing that Immortal City Mua Yi was going to say something boring, Dustless immediately closed the door and left. In the quiet corridor, Silver lowered his head and thought. His relationship with Nangong Natsuyu was a bit unusual. No matter how he looked at it, they didn't look like superior and subordinate. Dustless also didn't really treat Natsuyu as his superior. Why are you in a daze? Right at this moment, a black figure appeared before his eyes. She was small and exquisite, and she was cute like a porcelain doll. However, her entire body revealed a wisp of indescribable dignity, and it caused others to be unable to help but become nervous and treat her with respect. Natsuyu? Dustless asked. Why are you looking for me? There don't seem to be any missions. Your little lovers are in trouble. Natsuyu said. There was a hint of dissatisfaction in her tone as she asked. I told you about the Tengaku tribute before. Why did you let Kanase Canon and the others go to the Audiobook monastery? This is a serious matter. After speaking, Nangong Nayu took out her lace-folding fan, as if she wanted to give Wu Chen a fan. Hearing this, Dustless was speechless. He couldn't say that he went to destroy the first true ancestor's Battle King domain. Moreover, he didn't let them go to the monastery. However, the stubborn Honban Sayaka didn't listen. Dustless couldn't do anything about it. Anyway, let's go and take a look. With a sigh, Dustless grabbed Natsuki Nangong and jumped out of the window. He flew straight to the direction of the Audiobook monastery. Natsuyu didn't resist being hugged by Dustless. It was a matter of life and death. Even if she wanted to mess around, she had to choose the right time. However, a faint blush appeared on her face. Ha 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 ha. What a bunch of idiots. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to catch you. Who would have thought that you would take my head? It seems that the heavens haven't abandoned me. A young man wearing a white shirt and a checkered hat laughed. This was the Audiobook monastery. Kanase Canon had taken care of all the stray cats here. She had planned to leave after buying cat food and feeding them. Who would have thought that she would run into Amatero Kagura? There are so many powerful psychics here. Tensuyu's eyes circled around the girls. He was secretly shocked. Jijua Shelley, Hanban Sayaka, Lafria, Kanase Cannon, and even Nagisa were all good psychics. Get lost if you don't want to die. You're the one who should be worried. Facing the powerful Tenzuka Gong, Hanzakaka Sayaka chose to fight back decisively. She stood side by side with Jijua Shelley, and Lafreya, who was holding the curse-type spear, was also waiting for an opportunity. Humph. Let's get down to business first. I'll deal with you later. Tian Zhonggong was not in a hurry to make a move. He walked slowly to a sculpture that looked a little old, and a deep fanaticism flashed in the depths of his eyes. Immediately, he took out a red sphere and pressed it into it. Gulp! The statue that looked as hard as iron started to move. After a few seconds, it all turned into liquid and fell to the ground. What's this? Azure Wing Asakani and Kanase Cannon were weak. When they saw this scene that defied the laws of physics, they both took a step back. Their eyes were filled with fear. You are important tools for me to resurrect that guy. I can't lose a single one of you. As long as I resurrect him, I can become a proper human again. Tensuyu smiled coldly. The unknown liquid on the ground was the spiritual blood of the sage. However, resurrecting it wasn't something that could be done easily. It would take a lot of effort. Kanase Cannon was an important tool to resurrect the sage. Chapter 1572. A large amount of bright red blood dripped down and covered the ground. Moreover, it was extremely viscous and extremely disgusting. However, the strange thing was that there was no smell of blood. These two girls are a little troublesome, but, taking a peek at Asami Azure Wing and Hanase Natsuan, who were being protected by several people, Kung Amatsuka revealed a sly smile. It was so subtle that ordinary people would not be able to catch it. Capture the hostages and force them to compromise. It's not easy to control the sage's spiritual blood. Master's consciousness is still preserved in it. I have to use pseudo-core refinement to force her out. Tenzuka Gong thought to himself. At the same time, he walked to the corner and took out the items he had prepared in advance. Tian Zhonggong, you ungrateful bastard. A stout middle-aged man scolded. The so-called tool was already a human being with a special pseudo-core inside his body. This was what Amaterasu Kung used to contaminate the sage's spiritual blood, and also to force his master out. Once the sage's spiritual blood was awakened, his master, Mina Yadalad, would also wake up. Ungrateful? At the end of the day, you're just using me. Get the hell in, director. Tenzuka Gong ignored him and kicked the stout young man into the sage's spirit blood. The transparent and viscous blood rushed over from all directions like wild cats that smelled blood. This person was instantly devoured. How treacherous! Sakura Huangban, Sayaka, Jijua, Shelley, and the others cursed out loud. Although they didn't know the relationship between Tian Zhonggong and Jijua, they knew each other without a doubt. Using an acquaintance as a test subject, you're really depraved. The tip of Lafreya's cursed gun was already aimed at Tenzuka Gong's head. Her eyes were fixed on him, as if she was looking for the right opportunity to give him a fatal blow. Who asked him to want to use me? What makes him think he can obtain the power of the sage? What a joke. This is the price he has to pay for overestimating himself. Gong Tenzuka said disdainfully. At the same time, he stared cunningly at Kanase Natsuya and Aseo Blue Feathers. Ayo 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 ayo. At the same time, the surging blood on the ground suddenly roiled violently as if it had gone out of control. Countless sharp objects appeared and madly attacked the group. Not only were Jijua, Shelley, and the other girls attacked, even Tenggong was attacked as well. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Jijua, Shelley and the others hadn't expected this sudden change of events. They hadn't thought that this disgusting blood could be so cruel, and all of them had suffered a merciless attack. Clang, clang. Jijua, Shelley, and the other girls were not weak either. The moment those sages' spirit blood darted over, they launched a fierce counterattack and launched dazzling attacks. Puchi! 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 The tentacle-like sage's spirit blood was immediately shattered. This terrifying tentacle that was as sharp as a blade was only scary on the surface. It ends here. Ji Shelly and Hanban Sayaka surrounded Teng Gong. Teng Gong stood there motionlessly, as if he had already accepted his fate. However, if someone saw the meaningful smile on his face, they would not think so. That's the end of it. Pointing at Kanace Cannon and Azure Wing Aseo, Gong Amatsuka smirked. You two are strong, but your brains are average. I've already said that you two aren't my targets. Could it be? Ji Shelly and Huangban Sayaka glanced at each other, and both of them were stunned. Simultaneously, they turned around to look behind them, and the scene that greeted their eyes made them feel despair. Aseo Azure Wing and Kanace Cannon had already been subdued by Gong Amatsuka's clone. How treacherous! Huangban Sha and Yaha abhorred evil. The weapon in her hand creaked as it reflected a cold light filled with killing intent. You still want to fight? Gong Amatsuka curled his lips and said disdainfully, You don't realize the desperate situation you're in. Put down your weapons, or I'll kill those two girls. Despicable! Ji Shelly's expression changed, and she cursed. However, she had no choice but to put down her snow wolf. You better not fall into my hands. Hanban Sayaka's eyes were filled with ferocity. She threw down her weapon in anger, but she had no choice. They couldn't ignore Kanace Cannon and Azure Wing Aseo's lives. You still dare to threaten me? So what if I'm despicable? With a cold face, Tenzuka Gong showed a victorious expression. He casually waved his hand, and all kinds of sharpness appeared. There were countless metal spikes. Bakudo 81. Skybreaker. A transparent barrier as thin as a cicada's wing appeared in front of the two girls. This move. Is it him? Gong Amatsuka's eyelids twitched, and he looked around. He vaguely remembered that when he was beaten up by Dustless, he used the same move. Bang! 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 The barrier that looked like it was broken by a single stab was extremely sturdy, and it easily blocked the attack. The two girls behind the barrier were unharmed. Are you looking for me? You can't escape now. Suddenly, a cold voice came from behind. Tenzuo Gong shuddered and turned his head to look. Surprisingly, it was Wu Chen with a cold expression. Go to hell, asshole. Dustless's appearance immediately awakened the bad memories in Gong Amatsuka's mind. He remembered how he was beaten up by Dustless last time, and he was furious. His hand turned into a huge sword, and he swung it. Clang! Clang! Dustless's eyelids didn't even blink, and he grabbed the sword with a little force. Crack! Crack! The blade, which was completely made of compressed metal, collapsed in an instant, turning into steel fragments all over the ground. It was as simple as crushing an egg. It was very straightforward. Tenzuka Gong was annoyed. Chapter 1573. Tenzuka Gong was exasperated. His sword was not made of ordinary metal. It was made of highly compressed metal. Yet, it was easily crushed by Dustless. His self-esteem was crumbling bit by bit. You don't know when to advance or retreat at all. Do you want to die so much? Dustless frowned and asked. If he didn't kill Ting Gong, he wouldn't be satisfied. He had never met anyone who loved to die so much. Kill me? I'm afraid you don't have the ability to do so. Tenzuka Gong sneered. Kanace Cannon and the other psychics are mine. Then, hearing this, Wu Chen's eyelids lit up. His sight focused on Tang Zhonggong's body. A black light slowly spread out from his head. Please die. Amaterasu. The tiny black flame on his head suddenly grew a few hundred times bigger and engulfed his entire body. Tenzuka Gong was in trouble. Ugh! A heart-wrenching scream shook the heavens. Tian Zhonggong was rolling on the ground crazily. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. However, no one pitied such a despicable person. He was the one who brought this humiliation upon himself. Are you all okay? His gaze swept across the girls one by one. When Wu Chen's gaze landed on Shallow Blue Feather, he paused for a few seconds. Looking at the marks on her fair skin, he couldn't help but frown. What happened? Azure Wing was stunned. She looked at the wound on her hand and said, Strange. You were fine just now. How did you get hurt? Is it because of those tentacle monsters? Azure Wing lowered her head and pondered. She seemed to be trying to figure out where she got hurt. Some things can't be avoided. Is that Nina Yadalad? Dustless sighed in his heart. He sensed a special energy entering Azure Wing's body. However, he did not stop it. There was no harm in it. Dustless could see that the wound on Azure Wing's hand was slowly recovering. Senior, how should we deal with this guy? Jijua Shelley pointed at Tenzuka Gong and said angrily, this kind of person should be purified as soon as possible. That's right. Honban Sayoka nodded in agreement. Buzz buzz buzz. It was also at this moment that a purple light suddenly appeared in the void, forming the pattern of a magic array. Immediately after, a large number of chains shot out from the magic array, all of them shooting towards Tenzuka Gong. Nayu. Seeing this, Dustless shook his head and said, this guy's body is a little strange. He can liquefy. This kind of thing is useless. Gulp. Sure enough, just as Dustless said, the moment the chains bound Tenzuka Gong, his body instantly collapsed and turned into a pile of liquid metal. This brat is quite troublesome. Natsuki stood on the magic array with a frown on her face. Her eyebrows were almost knitted together. She was unhappy that she had lost face in front of Dustless and the others. Keek keek. Gloomy laughter suddenly sounded, and the liquid Tian Zhonggong's body was compressed again. With your means, it's too difficult to kill me. Tang Gong laughed complacently, unusually savage. Is that so? Dustless laughed eerily a few times, and a sinister arc appeared on his face. Thump. Tenzuka Gong's heart skipped a beat, and he had a bad premonition. He then shouted, just you wait, the next time we meet, I'll kill all of you. Next time? Hearing this, Dustless sneered and mocked mercilessly. Now you'll have to pay a heavy price for this. He focused his gaze on Tenzuka Gong's body and activated his eye power. God's might. A huge ripple appeared on Tenzuka Gong's body, and then a black hole appeared, rapidly devouring his liquid body. Damn it, what is this? Tenzuka Gong shouted in panic, and looked at the black hole in fear. He realized that his body was about to be devoured by the black hole. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Just as Tenzuka Gong was about to be devoured, a black light suddenly appeared, and the direction it was aiming at was Tenzuka Gong's body. Boom boom boom. Tenzuka Gong's body exploded, and he turned into liquid metal all over the ground. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Then, an unexpected black dot descended from the sky. It was a white suit, golden hair, and a handsome face. Vatler? Dustless's calm eyes had a rare ripple, and he asked calmly. The first true ancestors' War King domain was attacked by a meteor, and 99% of the area was destroyed. Almost all the people were killed, so why aren't you dead? And, your aura seems to have gotten a lot stronger. Why am I not dead? That's a good question. Vatler's face had a smug smile and then he laughed. Borrowing your words, if there's an exception in this world, then without a doubt, that person is me. This kid's aura is not right. He has Koju's aura. Dustless narrowed his eyes and looked at Vatler carefully, and he said in surprise, could it be that you devoured Koju completely? If that's the case, it's not surprising that you're still alive. You're indeed strong. You can even see that I did devour Koju. After a moment of surprise, Vatler's face was filled with passion, and he said loudly, not just Koju, but also immortal Mua Yi. Thanks to you and Xiandu Mua Yi, I devoured another great person. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.